Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you're watching first part of What If Naruto Accidentally Awakens Rinnegan during Chunin exams. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
The Valley of the Dawn in Fire Country. It's commonly said that things always come in threes. Both good and bad things, regardless of circumstance, should always arrive in threes. Depending on which design you saw, the hideous Mangekyo Sharingan, for instance, had 3 sets of layers. Another illustration of this is held the legendary Sannin, who rose from being some of the world's greatest fighters to becoming a team under the Yondaime Hokage when they were genin. Unfortunately, nobody wanted to let Uzumaki Naruto know about this small fact. His present instructor was a man known as Jiraiya, a legendary Sannin. The two had met during the exam break, which lasted 1 month. Jiraiya had to take the boy as a student and teach him the Kuchio's no Jutsu since he had defeated the boy's previous teacher in the exam. The boy's chakra network was unfortunately so vast that it was practically hard to control. To make matters worse, Jiraiya found a suppression seal on him, courtesy of Orochimaru, another Sannin. When it was taken out, though, Naruto's chakra control returned to normal, enabling him to become proficient at the water walking exercise. Jiraiya had enough after numerous failures at the Kuchio's no Jutsu and ordered the boy to attempt to extract the terrifying chakra that his own father had sealed inside of him. Before he placed her new pupil on the ground, Jiraiya said, "Pardon me, Minato." Naruto blinked and turned to ask him, "Where am I?" Jiraiya commanded, "Get up," and Naruto got up shakily. What is it?" A confused Naruto asked. "Your training ends here. If you value your life, you've got to figure things out for yourself," Jiraiya said with a smile. Naruto said, "Huh," incredulously before Jiraiya shoved him. "Oh crap," exclaimed the blonde genin as she reeled back and fell, right into the wide valley below. "Now, we'll discover if the Kyuubi is a boon or a curse," Jiraiya thought to himself as he watched his pupil tumble to the ground. Naruto attempted to use chakra, but each time he made contact with the wall, he lost his grip and continued to fall. "I really am going to die if I can't hold on to something." The mindscape of Naruto. Jinchuuriki seal. "Drip, please. Drip, please. Drip, please." Naruto moaned, "Oh my aching head," and looked up. "Where am I?" Gazing around the sewer. Like setting he had found himself in, he thought to himself. There was a tremendous roar that reverberated throughout the hallway. Naruto narrowed his eyes and said, "This feeling, it's the chakra," as he moved through the hallway and into a spacious room. What on earth is this? When he saw the enormous prison that resembled a gate, he asked himself in reflection. From the darkness beyond the gate, a sinister voice called out, "Boy, come closer." What the? 4 big claws tried to snag Naruto through the bars, but he sprang back. The voice growled in exasperation, "I want to devour you, but this gate, this seal prevents me from doing so. It won't open, how irritating." You are Kyuubi no Yoko," admitted Naruto. "Child of my enemy, why have you come? Even those eyes of yours will not save you from me, so tell me what you want or leave, boy," the huge fox yelled with rage. After taking a deep breath, Naruto grinned and said, "Hey, furball. I've been letting you live in my body all this time and you owe me rent. As payment I'll take you chakra." The chamber was filled with Kyuubi's ominous laughter as he answered, "You've got some nerve, brat. You are either very brave or very stupid." Just like he was. "Very well, boy, I will reward you for having such nerve, but know that I am only doing this to help ensure my own survival." The blonde was engulfed in a red liquid that seeped through the bars and covered him. The Valley of the Dawn in Fire Country. Naruto exclaimed, "Kuchio's no Jutsu," as smoke burst around him. From his perch above the valley, Jiraiya grinned and said, "Nicely done, kid." Just then, Naruto let out a painful cry, "What's going on?" Gamabunta, the big toad, leapt out of the valley while Naruto covered his eyes and screamed in agony. Gamabunta exclaimed, "Jiraiya, what's going on here?" As the Gama Sennin leapt to his head and walked over to his pupil. Jiraiya, looking worried, said, "This is Uzumaki Naruto, my new student and your new summoner. What's wrong, kid?" Jiraiya had to catch himself from falling when Naruto turned to face him, saying, "Oh no." His gaze, with tears streaming down his face, Naruto said in a panic, "My eyes hurt arrow. Sennin, what's going on? Jiraiya gulped and said, your eyes. You have the Rinnegan. He has what? Gamabunta demanded. Quote. No one has ridden on my head since the Yondaime Hokage. Fine, I will allow him to be a summoner, but you had better make him into someone dependable. Jiraiya. The enormous toad vanished in a puff of smoke, allowing Jiraiya to grab Naruto as they fell to the ground. Naruto, you're channeling chakra to your eyes, so stop channeling chakra and the pain should stop too, Jiraiya stated to him. Naruto followed instructions, sighed with relief when the pain subsided, and asked, what was that arrow? Sennin. Jiraiya gave Naruto an order to look at me, saying, it seems that your Rinnegan is different from Nagato's, you can deactivate yours at will. Rinnegan. Perplexed, Naruto inquired. Said to be the most honorable of the three, Dujutsu is said to have started with the Rakudo, Sennin, who is thought to have been the first shinobi. Ninjutsu, Genjutsu, Taijutsu, Kenjutsu, Fuinjutsu, and Kinjutsu are the original forms of jutsu that he invented. It's a very risky form of Dujin, Jiraiya clarified. Who is Nagato? Naruto questioned him. Nagato was one of my former students. I've heard he passed away recently, but he also had the Rinnegan. The Rinnegan is said to manifest itself every time the world turns corrupt. It possesses the ability to function as both an all-consuming destructive tool and a godlike force. Jiraiya went on, I never wanted to see one again, I never thought I would see one again. How should I proceed? Naruto timidly inquired. Quote. For now keep the fact that you have those eyes a secret, we don't want any of the other countries finding out yet, and we definitely don't need Orochimaru taking an interest in you, Jiraiya said to the blonde. Gulping, Naruto nodded and said, arrow. Sennin, sure thing. Alright, let's see if we can get you some semblance of control over the Rinnegan, and maybe Kyuubi's chakra, Jiraiya said after pausing for a moment. Fire Country. Chunin Exam Arena, Konoha. The day of the exam finals was a flurry of activity throughout the village, but nowhere more so than in the arena itself, where spectators from all over the elemental countries had gathered to watch the tournament in which the strongest genin from the different villages came to see if they could advance. Among them were the members of the now famous Konoha 12. The participants soon arrived and stood in the middle of the field, but Uchiha Sasuke, the heir to the Uchiha clan, had not yet arrived. The Hokage, Kazekage, and, shockingly, the Raikage had shown up to watch the tournament even though he had no one taking the exam. When asked why he was there, he simply replied that he came to watch the tournament. Sarutobi Hiruzen silently cursed Kakashi for his persistent tardiness, wondering why he always had to be late. Sasuke-kun is still not here, Ino remarked, glancing down from the crowd. Sakura said nothing next to her as she considered her lost teammate. Hey, Ino nudged her. I understand that you're worried about Sasuke-kun, but since Naruto has the first match, why don't you just cheer him on instead of worrying? With a, yeah, smile, Sakura turned to face her old friend. Now, let's start the Chunin exam's first match. Examiner Genma predicted that Hyuga Neji and Uzumaki Naruto would advance while the other contestants would go to the fighter's box to wait for their turn. The two Ino couldn't help but remark as the other competitors departed, he's up against Neji. Can he really win against him? Sakura smiled slightly and answered honestly, I don't know, but he won't go down easy, recalling their mission to Wave Country and their time spent in the Forest of Death. Someone in the audience said, the kid doesn't stand a chance, he's fighting a Hyuga, and a number of other people agreed. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Look at what happened though, I got my ass kicked, Kiba said with a small smile. The two fighters were gazed down at by the three assembled cages high up in the cage box. So, the Hyuga progeny is that. What's up, Raikage? Hiruzen gave a small nod. Yes, he is. It was his father who lost his life in the incident involving your predecessor Raikage. Dono. I'm sure the boy must hold much animosity towards our village, the Raikage nodded in understanding. The Kazekage said, the boy will have an easy win. With a slight smirk, Hiruzen said, we'll see. The Raikage turned to face his bodyguard, Niyugito, a 13-year-old Kumo Chunin. What is it, Yugito-chan? The blonde girl whispered to him, grandfather, that blonde boy. I sense a great power within him. Yes, I feel it too, the Raikage whispered in response, nodding. Yugito gave a nod, How should we proceed? With a smile, the Raikage told his granddaughter to pay close attention to this tournament. I promise to prevail, declared Naruto, raising his hand to greet Neji. Recalling his earlier encounter with Hinata on the practice field prior to arriving at the stadium, he made a silent commitment to use every resource at his disposal to vanquish Neji. Neji laughed merrily. You seem to think you can win, but you can't change destiny. Fate has already decided how this match will end. He said, taking a Juken stance. I can't wait to see your eyes when you realize the truth. In reply, Naruto simply smiled and said, whatever. Let's have a blast. Let the Chunin exam finals opening match start right now. Genma yelled as he leapt out of the two's path. Naruto instantly created a hand seal that read, Taju Kage Bunshin on Jutsu. 20 shadow clones materialized in front of him, and he exclaimed, charge. The child is proficient in the Jonin level of Kenjutsu known as Taju Kage Bunshin. Where did he acquire that knowledge, and more significantly, how does he apply it with such ease? Azumo, watching the fight, questioned. I don't understand how he can use a more powerful version of the technique when he can't even execute a basic Bunshin no Jutsu, Kotetsu questioned, perplexed. As the clones charged, Neji thought, the fool. He activated his Byakugan and smirked at the approaching one-man army, saying, his clones have an equal amount of chakra in them, so I am unable to ascertain which one is the real one, but you cannot fool my eyes. He dodged the clones' attacks and charged directly at Naruto, saying, the one who hangs back while his clones fight is the real one. He lands a Juken strike at Naruto's heart, sending him smashing into the nearby tree, declaring, it's over. A moment later, the Naruto he hit vanished in a puff of smoke, leaving him looking confused. As Naruto emerged and delivered a forceful blow to the Hyuga's chin, sending him flying back, the ground beneath him abruptly parted. Now good enough. But Neji got up and gave the blonde a glare, saying, I knew going into this match that I would probably lose, but I refused to take it lying down because I detest it when jerks like you claim there is no hope at all. Naruto angrily yelled at him. What was your method? Neji glared and asked. I always kept my eyes on your original body. Do you really believe I was going to fight you with those clones? I was merely utilizing them to ascertain your composition. Do you really think I'm that foolish to engage in close quarters combat with a Hyuga without having an advantage? Grinning, Naruto shot back. Neji's eyes narrowed and he trailed off, this ignorant little. Naruto said, the clones also served another purpose. And could that be the case? The Hyuga progeny inquired. The blonde replied honestly, to see if there was a gap in your line of sight. Neji spun around in shock, but he was caught off guard when one of Naruto's clones delivered a powerful punch to his face, sending him flying backwards as the clones chased after him. He found the gap in my eyesight with his clones. Neji exclaimed. Complete him right away. As his clones pulled out their weapons to complete the task, Naruto yelled to them. Kaden, I have to use that jutsu. I have no other choice, Neji thought to himself as he returned to solid ground and released chakra from every part of his body. He yelled as he whirled around, encasing himself in a massive sphere of spinning chakra. The clones vanished in an instant. He's truly putting Neji in a tight spot, Ino remarked in shock. Leave Naruto. Sakura let out a cheer upon witnessing her teammate defeat the Hyuga. Azumo stated, I don't believe it, not believing what he was seeing. Kotetsu whispered to himself, this kid, while he watched Neji perform a Kaden. That plan was worthy of a practical joke, Azumo remarked, smiling slightly. The boy thought up a plan almost instantly to throw off his opponent, the Hokage said, grinning slightly. Impressive, the Raikage added. With a small nod, Hiruzen said, the boy still surprises me. The Kage stared calculatingly at the arena below, saying nothing. As Yugito watched the match, she had a side thought, this guy. Are you seeing how destiny is beyond your control? I have had enough of your games. I shall end this now, Neji told him, urging him to win the match because, you cannot stand against fate. Naruto remained silent. Neji then charged forward before Naruto could respond, saying, Hake Rokuji and show. The blonde genin was forced to watch helplessly as Neji battered him, strike after strike, until finally Neji's final open palm strike to his chest sent him flying back, coughing up some blood as his body hit the ground and Neji grinned at his work. It felt like he'd been hit by hundreds of needles at once. The Hyuga progeny declared, "It's over," with finality. Azumo sighed, "He's done for," upon witnessing the vicious assault. With a shook head, Ino leaned back. "I guess I should have expected this outcome." Naruto, Sakura mused, recalling what he had done during the preliminary rounds. "Although he is quite entertaining, he cannot compete with a genius," the Kazekage remarked with a hint of amusement as he watched the blonde genin lose. "It seems like he's talking about someone else," Hiruzen said, glancing sideways at his fellow Kage. "Somehow I doubt it's over." "That was too easy," the Raikage said, choosing to remain silent and observe. "Proctor, raise the horn." "He's not getting up," Neji asserted with assurance. Unfortunately, reality didn't support him. A moment later, Naruto stood up. A massive amount of crimson chakra burst from his body, making him glow red. "Wanna bet? How about H?" When Neji saw the red chakra, he stepped back and asked, "Was that a fox?" his eyes widening as he focused on the source of the energy. With his body engulfed in what appeared to be flames, Naruto thought, "Arrow. Sennin told me not to use the Rinnegan unless I had to. I guess I'll just have to stick with the furball's chakra." His fists clenched as he fixed his gaze on his opponent. "Now do you understand, bastard? I was ahead of you from the start. Just so I know what to expect, I wanted you to show me your trump cards first." At that, Neji's eyes grew wide. He had this plan from the start. The Raikage said, "He's a Jinchuuriki," while he was observing the fight. Just barely audible above a whisper, Yugito said, "Yes. I think it's the Kyuubi." The Raikage kept watching, grinning. "This will be interesting." Hiruzen was thinking, this chakra, when did he learn to control it in a stable form? Did Kakashi teach him this? The Kazekage kept watching in silent rage. The Hyuga progeny could hardly dodge as the shockwave blew away the ground he had been standing on just moments before. Naruto shot forward faster than he had been before and Neji turned quickly to intercept him. A moment later Naruto disappeared in a burst of speed, surprising Neji, and he couldn't turn in time to block the punch that connected with his face. Naruto cocked his fist back and then threw it out at Neji. A moment later the air around his fist rippled and was propelled towards where Neji stood. As he recovered from the blow, Neji thought, "He's faster than before. What's going on here?" But he was unable to stop Naruto's series of successive attacks. As Naruto struck the young Hyuga in the face once more, he thought to himself, "I have to stay close and not let him escape." Neji started to spin, chakra bursting out of him, thinking, "It's no good. Kaden, you cannot defeat me." Naruto shot out of the way to evade the boy's last line of defense. He said to the blonde, "Fate will not permit it. It's not mine, but that may be the Hyuga way of giving in to fate. If you think there's nothing you can do about it, then give up and accept it." Shouting, Naruto struck Neji with a punch that sent a shockwave through him. Kaden, Hyuga progeny whirled, letting out a great deal of chakra. The shockwave struck his chakra barrier and deflected harmlessly, saying, "What a fool, direct assaults don't work on me." "Now," Naruto exclaimed, moving faster than the human eye could follow. He struck just as Neji was about to release his jutsu. "You shouldn't let your guard down." With his fist cocked back, the blonde exclaimed. Neji's eyes grew wide as Naruto approached, saying, "There's not enough time to use the Kaden again." He had this planned. The sound of Naruto's fist striking Neji's uncovered face reverberated, and the Hyuga progeny, barely conscious that he had been launched through the air, crashed hard into the stadium wall, dropping out of the opening and collapsing onto the ground moments later. Neji, struggling to stay conscious, thought, "I am defeated." Gazing up, he saw Naruto towering over his battered form, saying, "I was careless. Just to be clear, I took the academy exam 3 times and failed. My clones were pathetic. They still are, because, unfortunately, there was only one jutsu on the exam. The Bunshin no Jutsu," Naruto informed him, causing his eyes to widen. Neji, startled, glanced up at him and said, "But you." "I can easily create shadow clones at the Jonin level, but I am unable to create regular clones due to my excessive chakra. What you witnessed today was not my flaws but rather my strengths." "For someone who is supposed to be able to see everything, you sure are blind," Naruto told him. "Don't come to me with this destiny stuff, because unlike me you're not a failure," he concluded with a smile and turned away. "Hinata is the same way, you always see her weaknesses but never her strengths." Winner. Uzumaki Naruto, the examiner said, pointing to the blonde genin wearing orange clothing. Fire Country. Chunin Exam Arena, Konoha. Sakura cried, he won. And the audience erupted in applause. How did he? I mean, did you see that? Ino questioned, observing Naruto move with his arm raised in a gesture of acknowledgement as he headed for the exit. Sakura said, of course I did, watching as Genma spoke to Neji briefly before the paramedics arrived to take him away. As he watched, Azumo remarked, I can't believe the kid actually won. It's unbelievable he was able to use its chakra in a stable form, Kotetsu said, nodding in response. Who would teach him something like that though? Not everyone is able to actually teach someone how to control a power like that, Azumo responded. Kotetsu said, I don't know, but whoever it is did a hell of a job, as Naruto returned to the examinee's box. He's not bad, Yugito grinned like a cat pursuing a mouse. He's interesting. A bit reckless, but if he's given enough training he could be a very formidable adversary. He kind of reminds me of them now that I think about it, the Raikage said, allowing a wry smile to appear on his face. With curiosity, Yugito asked, who grandfather? Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato, the Raikage murmured in her ear. With wide eyes, Yugito said, wait, his last name is Uzumaki. You don't think that he? I have never heard of a blonde-haired Uzumaki before, it makes you wonder, the Raikage said with a small laugh. But because they were already lost in their own thoughts, the other people in the box weren't focusing on them. Excellent Naruto-kun, you will surely make Chunin if I have anything to say, the Hokage observed, peering down at the opponent's box. I have to make sure that Brat gets killed today. The Kage, who was waiting for the next match to start, looked down at the arena and thought, he could become a problem for me in the future if I leave him alone. A bewildered Kabuto, disguised, stood in the stands, wondering why his master had not yet given the order to begin the invasion. Previously, he had assumed that Sasuke's absence allowed him to monitor the boy, but now it seemed as though his master was holding out for something. Narrowing his eyes, the genin looked to where Naruto was chatting with his Nara friend in the competitor's box. If Orochimaru Sama has delayed the invasion, it must be because he wants Naruto-kun dead, Kabuto reasoned. It was planned for Uchiha Sasuke and Sabaku no Gaara to square off in the next match. However, Sasuke's match was rescheduled to take place last because it turned out he hadn't shown up, much to the other competitors' dismay, though each of them for different reasons. Let's just say that Sabaku no Tamari and Nara Shikamaru's match was largely one-sided. After thinking of countless strategies upon strategies, Shikamaru eventually caught Tamari in his shadow jutsu, effectively defeating her. Naturally, he gave up a moment later, stating that it was too difficult to continue. The following match was scheduled to feature Aburame Shino vs Sabaku no Kankuro. But that didn't happen. Shino and Shikamaru knew something wasn't right almost immediately because Kankuro had forfeited before the match even started. Despite his bug's reluctance to approach Gaara, Shino subtly drained Tamari and Kankuro of chakra. It seems that his chakra wasn't up to par by bug standards. However, the quarterfinal match between Sabaku no Gaara and Uchiha Sasuke finally got underway. After being given an additional 5 minutes to arrive, Sasuke and Kakashi arrived at the last minute, but just in time. At this point, Naruto, Shikamaru, and Shino had approached the bleachers and reunited with their companions. It turns out that during Naruto's battle with Neji, some Anbu who was present in the stadium had healed Hinata. Hello, Naruto, Kakashi greeted his fair-haired pupil. Glancing over his shoulder, Naruto said, Hey, Kakashi, sensei. How are you doing? I'm okay. I'm sorry I couldn't train you for the finals Naruto, but I had other matters to attend to, the copy.nin said with a nod as they turned their focus to the match. Clutching his fists, Naruto nodded and said, Yeah, like teaching Sasuke cool jutsus I bet. After a brief moment of sadness, Kakashi said, Hey now, Naruto, I didn't. From the arena, Sasuke exclaimed, Chidori. As lightning engulfed his fist. You were stating, Naruto muttered to himself. Trying to defend himself, Kakashi said, he needed it in order to fight Gaara effectively. Observing his prized student move to attack a ball of sand that Gaara was now encased in. Naruto chuckled a little. Hey. Raising an eyebrow, Kakashi questioned, What's so funny? Naruto chuckled, almost sinister. It's funny because even with that new jutsu of his, he won't win. Why do you think that way? The copy.nin questioned, his eyes narrowing. Because he's fighting a demon container. We're not easily beaten by a thing like that, Naruto said with a tiny smirk. When Kakashi saw that Sasuke had to retreat after landing his Chidori attack, his eyes widened in shock. To the surprise of the assembled spectators, sand burst from the sphere that shielded Gaara and started to batter the already vulnerable Sasuke. Genma called the match, and just as Gaara was about to deliver the final blow, Kakashi leapt down to retrieve his pupil. Come out, Uzumaki Naruto. Mother wants your blood, Sakura Gaara yelled to the crowd after Kakashi placed Sasuke down next to her, now in tears. Following the announcement, the stadium erupted into silence, and then someone's footsteps were heard. It was Naruto, turning to face the stairs. Sakura exclaimed, shocked, Naruto. You can't seriously be thinking of fighting that monster, are you? Look at what he did to Sasuke-kun. With his back to her and the other, Rookie 9, as they were dubbed, Naruto simply laughed and said, a monster huh? You have no idea. He simply continued to walk past his sensei. In all honesty, Kakashi told him, Naruto, you should forfeit. Gaara is not an ordinary shinobi, even I would be hard pressed to defeat him. With a simple shake of his head, Naruto walked right past his sensei and said, I have to find out which one of us chose the right path. I can't do that, sensei. I can feel it, he's someone like me. Well then, best of luck, the copy.nin murmured, watching his fair-haired pupil descend the steps. With an eyebrow raised, Asuma questioned him, was that really such a good idea, Kakashi? Kakashi just said, watch this match carefully and you'll find out the answer, before he lowered his gaze once more to the arena floor. Naruto kept his eyes on his opponent as he arrived at the exit on the arena floor. The young man with red hair had a crazy expression on his face that perfectly captured his rage at not being able to kill the Uchiha in his previous match. Although Naruto wouldn't acknowledge it, he was genuinely terrified of Gaara because of his immense power and willingness to kill anyone who attracted his attention. With one hand gripping the last wound that Sasuke had inflicted on him during the previous match, Gaara held his head slightly. Naruto thought to himself, Sasuke really did a number on this guy, upon seeing the wound. Genma yelled, begin, as he leapt clear of the two combatants. Gaara shot a big cloud of sand at Naruto very quickly, and he had to dodge it as it came flying towards him. He used chakra to stick to the arena wall as he jumped onto it after rolling beneath another layer of sand. Naruto thought to himself, enough dodging, and leapt off the wall to escape being battered by another cluster of sand. With a hand seal, 7 clones appeared next to him at once, forming Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Hold still, Uzumaki Naruto. Gaara yelled maniacally as he threw a sandstorm at the clones. He yelled, Ryu Sabakuryu, while launching his assault. In addition to Naruto, who vanished in a matter of seconds along with the clones, the arena was left empty save for him. Come out, Uzumaki Naruto. He was surrounded by 3 clones that attacked him one by one. A sand lance was used to stab the first, cut the second in half, and force the last to fall to the ground. Though it was only a diversion and a kind of test, everything that transpired in a matter of seconds. Gaara turned a moment later, only to see Naruto show up and give the Tsunanin a good punch to the face. Gaara moaned as he shot backwards several feet, then skidded a little and caught his balance, thinking, he was seeing how long my sand would take to move. His cheek showed a crack, indicating that the layer of sand shielding his body had been struck. How do I beat this guy? Gazing at his opponent, Naruto thought, while I got friends who helped with my loneliness, he remained alone all this time. That's when you can actually be strong. His eyes hardened as the far-off memory replayed itself. What did he say? I can't remember. He snarled to himself as he observed Gaara start to giggle. So what now? He asked. Sand started to creep up Gaara's body and engulf him, and his laughter grew. His frantic laughter reverberated throughout the stadium as it consumed him, and eventually the sand formed the shape of a raccoon with eyes the color of diamonds. Raising his voice, Gaara exclaimed, "You're interesting, Uzumaki Naruto," and leapt over the blonde. What is this sensation? Naruto wondered as he experienced a mixture of dread, anxiety, and excitement. He didn't know, but he was aware that every fiber in his body cried out to fight and prevail. For some reason, I don't want to lose to this guy. He leapt back as Gaara crashed down on where he was standing a moment ago. What's he doing? He's a sitting duck, Kiba snarled while keeping an eye on the game. I'm not sure, Shino said, sounding perplexed. He's attempting to discover a cause for conflict, Kakashi clarified to the gathered assembly. Kiba questioned in shock, a reason? What good will that do? With a sigh, the copy.nin shook his head. If you were in his position, what would you fight for? Well, the Inuzuka Genin said after giving it some thought. Well, I guess, my family and friends. I mean, I wouldn't want to let them down or nothing. Exactly. Naruto is the same way, but in this case he doesn't really have a reason to fight and so can't win against Gaara as he is now, Kakashi said. What about Neji then? He beat Neji in the first round, so he must have a reason, Ino said. His reason for that was probably Hinata-san back in the preliminary, sighed Kakashi, nodding. Sakura said, grabbing their attention, hey, look at him, he's fighting back again. Pay close attention to this match. You're going to witness the full extent of Naruto's abilities, Kakashi said, shocking the assembled Genin and Jonin with a smile hidden beneath his mask. By that, what does he mean? The Genin pondered and asked. Is there someone you value greatly? Naruto stood up and muttered, I understand now. A person becomes truly strong when they have something they wish to defend. Naruto yelled as he began to make hand seals as quickly as he could. I've been seeing his face since this fight started, but I couldn't seem to remember what he said or who he was. Now I know though, I will not lose to you. With an open palm slammed to the ground, he thought, come on, I just need to summon one of the lower toads. He exclaimed, Kuchio's no jutsu, as a tiny red toad materialized in front of him. The toad said, hey bro, you must be Naruto. I've heard about you. This is what you bring forth to aid you. Pathetic. Suna shuriken. Gaara threw a volley of sand in the shape of a cluster of shuriken, laughing at the sight and crossing his arms. Hold on, Naruto exclaimed, snatching the toad and leaping to escape the barrage. Damn, he moaned in agony as 3 sand shurikens grazed his leg and shoulder. You okay, bro? The toad inquired, a little anxiously. Since his wounds had already healed, Naruto simply laughed in response, saying, I'm just fine, stay out of trouble until I need you. With a mock salute, Gamakichi said, run and hide, I gotcha. The name's Gamakichi just so you know, and leapt in the direction of the nearby tree. Naruto said, okay you, playtime's over, as red chakra shot out of his body and engulfed him in what looked like flames. Let's go wild. At least we now know who taught him, Kakashi remarked, smiling behind his mask. Of course only Jiraiya. Sama could have to summon toads and control that chakra, he said. Assuming his contemplative stance, Guy nodded at his side, even so, to actually be able to use it in a stable form. Asuma replied, everyone from Konoha is in shock at seeing him wield it like this. Kakashi thought to himself as he watched the 2 fighters charge at each other, that's 2 trump cards he's used in this match, that chakra and his summoning. I wonder if he's got anything else. Kotetsu remarked, not likely, from the side. Under his mask, Kakashi simply smiled and said, oh, I wouldn't be so sure of that. Asuma pondered out loud, I still wonder why Jiraiya Sama would teach a genin, let alone him of all people. After a moment, Kakashi narrowed his eyes and said, Naruto is no ordinary child. We are aware of that, Kakashi-san, Kurenai said. Kakashi didn't say anything, no you aren't. There are things about Naruto that no one in Konoha can understand, things that are far bigger than the burden he carries and would shake this village to its very foundations. He stopped talking, giving the other Jonin time to consider what he had said. Gaara was blown back by the small shockwave, but he quickly crouched down and recovered. A moment afterward, Naruto materialized in front of him, delivering a kick to his head covered in sand. He left a small crater behind him as he crashed hard into the arena wall. Almost immediately after, Naruto moved in front of him once more and punched him into the wall with his red chakra-covered fist. When he delivered the blow, dust shot out from where they were standing, but it quickly cleared. Naruto turned Gaara around by grabbing his sand tail, and then slammed him against the wall once more, this time with even more force. Gaara's massive sand claw blew Naruto away after a few more seconds, and he landed sprawled at the base of the nearby tree. Gamakichi watched his summoner rise, and he said, "Bro." Naruto told him, "I'm fine, he's tough," observing Gaara rise to her feet as well. The stadium echoed with Gaara's laugh, "Ha ha ha ha," as sand started to pile up around him. "You amuse me, Uzumaki Naruto," he chuckled as the sand surrounded him like a column. What is he doing right now? Before the sand column abruptly burst upward and outward, Naruto pondered. Oh no, he thought, scurrying for safety. With Gamakichi now resting on his head, he emerged from behind the tree he had used after the dust had settled, saying, "Well shit. This just got a lot harder," thought the 40-foot tall sand-based tanuki standing where Gaara had once stood. Gamakichi nervously said, "Heir. Bro. How do you plan on beating this guy?" To him. "I'm working on it. Fire Country. Chunin Exam Arena, Konoha." "What the hell is that?" exclaimed Ino, seeing as most of the senior ninja in the area appeared to be having a nervous breakdown. Simply said, "That is a demon," Kakashi said. In fear, Ino exclaimed, "What?" Guy went on, "It's the Ikibi no Tanuki, also known as Suna no Shukaku. It's one of the Biju, albeit the weakest of the 9, with Kyuubi being the strongest," Asuma stated to the genin. "This battle has just reached a whole new level," Kakashi said, glancing down at his fair pupil. "Dobi," Sasuke thought to himself after he came to. "Naruto," Sakura worriedly thought. Kurenai asked the other jonin, "Shouldn't we stop this?" But Kakashi shook his head, saying, "No, let's see how this unfolds." Upon seeing the giant sand tanuki, the Raikage thought to himself, "So they are both Jinchuuriki. Interesting, I wonder what level they are both currently at." "I think they're on my level, grandfather, judging by how they're fighting right now," Yugito said. "They are both on the Chunin level normally, but when they access their inner powers like this, they look to be on the Jonin level," the Raikage said, nodding in agreement. The Kumo Chunin asked him, "Grandfather, what should we do?" "So far, nothing," he replied, turning back to look at the match. The Hokage, who had not anticipated this result, observed him closely and said, "I wonder why Suna sent a Jinchuuriki into the exam. Particularly one with a poor containment seal like that. It almost seems like they had some sort of plan for him, but what? Oh my god, this isn't turning out the way I had hoped," the Kage thought angrily as the match went on. Gamakichi inquired, "Have you got a plan, bro?" With hope. Naruto nodded, biting his thumb and forming, just one, hand seals. "It will require all of my current Kyuubi chakra, though," he said in his head as he was done. "Kuchio's no jutsu," he exclaimed, slamming his open palm to the ground. He was standing on a 40-foot toad that he was all too familiar with when there was an abrupt explosion of smoke from his location. The leader of the toads is Gamabunta. Naturally, he had used up all of Kyuubi's chakra in order to complete the task without hurting himself, leaving him somewhat physically depleted, but he wasn't moaning because he still had his regular chakra reserves. Kiba exclaimed, "What the hell is that?" as he saw the enormous toad dressed in samurai armor and carrying a big dagger by his side. Surprised, Kakashi remarked, "That's the boss toad Gamabunta. I never thought I'd see him again. That last time he has been seen by anyone from Konoha was 12 years ago on the night the Yondaime Hokage defeated the Kyuubi no Kitsune," Asuma told the genin. Sakura, who had never read about that particular detail, questioned, "Really?" Yugito said, "Grandfather, isn't that?" "Yes," cut off the Raikage. She attempted to say, "No genin should have the chakra too." "I know," he cut her off once more, anticipating her next move. "Jiraiya. Dono definitely has been teaching this boy." Upon seeing the enormous toad, Hiruzen trailed off in thought, saying, "Naruto.kun. The other booth occupants were oblivious to the Kage, who was furiously fuming at the sight of this damned brat. There was barely a small, by their standards, space separating the two enormous creatures, who had virtually taken over the entire stadium. The toad threw away his smoking pipe and turned to face the person standing atop his head. The one who made him think of his former summoner. Gamabunta asked, irritated, "Not you again, boy, what do you want?" With a disbelieving expression, Naruto peered down into his eyes and said, "Do you not see the giant tanuki in front of you?" Gamabunta narrowed his eyes as he turned to face the hideous sand creature and said, "That's Shukaku." Naruto said simply, "I need your help," as he turned to face Shukaku, who was now clearly supported by Gaara. "And what makes you think I'll help you fight him of all things?" "The last time I fought a Biju I received this scar on my eye," Gamabunta stated to him. Gamakichi asked from on top of Naruto's head, "Oh come on Pops, don't be like that. Help the kid out would ya?" The blonde genin asked in shock, "Pops. Wait. You two are father and son. Why have I heard none of this?" Gamabunta asked, "And what are you doing here, Gamakichi?" Upon spotting the toad that was his son, Gamakichi responded, gesturing to the enormous sand demon, "Well, I came out to play a while back but that guy over there started bullying me." Gamabunta drew his dagger and growled, "What?" The toad boss said, "All right boy, I'll help you out this once but you owe me a drink," and Naruto nodded in comprehension. "As for you," Gamabunta said, moving surprisingly quickly for his size as he took 2 steps forward and sliced Shukaku's right arm off. He yelled, "No one attacks my son and gets away with it." As the sand arm vanished and he retreated to avoid the counterattack. "Ha ha ha ha." Gaara let out a wild laugh and sealed his palm. His body instantly passed out as Shukaku's eyes blazed with life. "You amuse me Uzumaki Naruto but your entertainment has come to an end. Tanuki Niri no Jutsu," he exclaimed. Shukaku's laughter reverberated throughout the stadium, frightening the spectators as well as everyone else. "Ha ha ha ha." Looking at the obviously insane Tanuki, Naruto exclaimed, "That's the demon." With astonishment, Gamabunta said, "Yes, that's Shukaku. He was always the craziest of the Biju," while maintaining an impassive stare. Naruto muttered, "Believe it," as Shukaku fixed his gaze on them. "Oh goody, my first victims," Shukaku sighed, taking a deep breath. "Kid, let's jump," Gamabunta informed him. Naruto exclaimed in shock, "What?" to discover that the toad boss had leapt a considerable distance. "Futon. Rinkuden," Shukaku roared, releasing a massive ball of focused wind where the toad boss had been standing only a few moments before. With incredible force, the blast broke through the wall, leveling it instantly. "You won't escape," he yelled maniacally as he pursued them and launched another attack, Futon, Rinkuden. When Naruto noticed the 3 terrifying attacks approaching, he yelled, "Boss." Gamabunta yelled, "I see them. Sweden. Teppadama no Jutsu," as he sent 2 condensed water blasts hurtling downward. "Is this a fight or a storm?" Ino exclaimed, causing water to fly everywhere in a rain-like shower as the 2 attacks collided. Sakura exclaimed, "Go Naruto," as she saw her teammate triumph. Kiba scowled as they all watched one of the wind balls continue on its way to the toad boss high in the sky. "Damn, it looks like they missed one," he said. The Raikage remarked, "Well, this is turning into quite the battle," after observing the strikes the 2 were launching at one another. Yugito asked him, "Who do you think will win, grandfather?" The Raikage did not say anything, but his smile persisted as he turned back to the battle. Naruto yelled, "You missed one boss," as he noticed the wind blast traveling quickly in their direction. Gamabunta moaned, "Damn," realizing there was nothing he could do. "This isn't going to be pretty," Gamakichi remarked while shielding his vision. Naruto closed his eyes and took a deep breath, and for a moment it seemed as though time had stopped. He sent chakra to his eyes, which appeared to have rings around his pupils and had turned gray when he slowly opened them. He gestured down to the wind attack and uttered 2 short words, bringing time back to normal. Shinra Tensai. The wind bullet vanished into thin air almost instantly, and Gamabunta collapsed backward toward the earth. At the other end of the stadium, he landed in a crouch and smiled up at his summoner. Like his previous summoner, Naruto stood firmly on the toad boss's head, his jacket open and swishing slightly in the wind. His eyes were glowing a light gray. Shukaku shook a little when he saw those eyes. "The Rinnegan," he growled, losing his amusement. Confused, "What happened?" Ino inquired. Kiba tried to get a closer look at Naruto's eyes and inquired, "What's up with his eyes?" Hinata stammered, He's using chakra in his eyes." Sakura asked, perplexed, "Why?" "That's the..." Kakashi's eyes grew wide upon hearing the sand demon's words. Asuma responded with the same shocked expression as everyone else. "The Rinnegan, the first Dujutsu and has only ever belonged to the first shinobi. The Rakudo Sennin and the man who founded the shinobi world. Gazing between the Jonin, Kiba questioned, "Wait, you're saying the Dobi has a bloodline?" "It seems so," Kakashi replied while attempting to gather his thoughts. "Why wasn't I informed?" "Dobi," Sasuke said, his eyes narrowing in rage at this insignificant detail. Yugito looked at Naruto standing atop Gamabunta's head and said, "What is that, grandfather?" "That is the Rinnegan, an extremely powerful dujutsu, and I think it is the reason my brother asked me to attend this little event. He did say he felt something unusual coming from Konoha. Now I know what he meant," said the Raikage. "That's the Rinnegan, no question about it, but how is that possible? Why does Naruto-kun have it when neither Kushina-chan nor Minato-kun do?" The Hokage was trying to figure out what was going on, and 100 questions and thoughts were racing through his mind. How is that dujutsu possible for that failure? The Kazekage considered his options, thinking angrily, "I cannot let him live, he could very well become an even bigger annoyance than Pain." Except it, Gamabunta, Gamakichi, and Naruto all smiled. In a matter of seconds, the young toad cheered and leapt off the boy's head, "Yeah." As his father hurried forward and crossed the stadium, they occupied most of it. Shukaku abruptly realized that his left sand arm had been blown off of his body as he raised one arm to backhand the approaching toad. Naruto exclaimed, "Shinra Tensai." After destroying the arm with his gravity manipulation power, he sighed, having expended most of his chakra reserves performing so many high-ranking jutsu and drawing energy from Kyuubi. "Grab him now," he exclaimed. With a shout of acknowledgement, "Right." Gamabunta grabbed onto Shukaku's shoulders. "Go. Wakey wakey," Naruto exclaimed as he delivered a forceful blow to the exposed redhead's face, "Rise and shine." He slid down the Tanuki's nose as Gaara appeared to tremble for a brief second. "Wake up, you bastard." "You," glared Gaara as soon as his eyes snapped open, accusing the blonde of waking him up. "Had enough yet?" Naruto inquired, jerking into motion once more. Gaara yelled, "Not so fast," as sand began to fly up in an attempt to encase Naruto. Naruto raised both of his hands in opposing directions, thinking, "Shit." She exclaimed, "Shinra Tensai," as the sand was blasted away by sheer force of gravity. Dodging the sand spears thrown at him, he kept running up towards where Gaara was standing, saying, "I have to get in close or I'm dead." The I the Jinchuuriki roared, "Hold still," as the entire Shukaku body attempted to escape Gamabunta's grasp. Gamabunta, trying to hold on, grunted, "Hurry up, kid, I can't hold him for long." Naruto leapt up toward where Gaara was, exclaiming, "My existence will not end here." He cried out, "Shinra Tensai," as he blasted the sand away from anyone trying to stop him and delivered another powerful blow to the Tsunade's exposed face. He smiled, "Got you," as Tanuki's sand began to break around them and eventually everything collapsed and vanished. Gamabunta said, "We'll be going now, kid. Come on, Gamakichi," and then he and his son vanished in a billowing cloud of smoke. After landing on the now sand-covered ground, the two shinobi slowly got to their feet. "Sabaku Q," Gaara said, raising his hand to Naruto and causing the sand at the blonde's feet to envelop him. With clenched hands, he exclaimed, "Sabaku Soso," as he blasted the sand away from him and the remaining sand in a 20-foot radius. Naruto exclaimed, "Shinra Tensai." Having used up all of his chakra, Gaara charged forward, shouting angrily, "Those eyes won't help you here." With an outstretched arm, Naruto yelled, "Shinra Tensai," at him. Suddenly, Gaara felt himself being dragged backward by an unseen force that broke through the tree nearby, which oddly had held its ground during the previous giant's battle. Gaara struggled to get to her feet, but she was unable to do so and fell to the ground, immobile. Naruto asked, clearly exhausted, "Are you done yet?" The I the Jinchuuriki exclaimed, almost in terror, "My existence won't be extinguished. I won't allow it." As Naruto moved slowly and sluggishly in his direction, Naruto looked down at the fallen Tsunanin and said, "The pain of being alone, it's not trivial. I understand. But I won't allow you to hurt those that are important to me." "Why do you go to such lengths for others?" Gaara questioned, unable to comprehend. "Because they saved me from my own darkness," someone once told me. "When a person has something they want to protect, that's when they become truly strong," Naruto replied with honesty. Gaara said, "I see." I cannot win, after giving him a moment of intense stare. After hearing Gaara's statement, Genma walked up to the two and raised his hand to indicate Naruto's position. Winner. Uzumaki Naruto. Choji exclaimed joyfully, he won. And the assembly cheered him on. He went ahead and completed the task, Ino remarked, shocked, at her side. Kiba exclaimed, nice one, Naruto. Upon witnessing his friend's triumph. Naruto.kun, Hinata said with a smile, pointing down to the blonde. Yugito said, not believing what she was seeing. He won. She smiled as she looked down at the boy, saying, he actually won. Why, Yugito-chan. If I didn't know any better, I would say you had a crush on the young lad, the Raikage naively remarked. Yugito's cheeks flushed a little and she stammered, don't be ridiculed, grandfather. You're blushing, the Raikage made fun of. I am not, she uttered firmly. Well, I hope you get used to the idea of working with him, because if my plan works out, you will be seeing a lot more of him, the Raikage grinned, causing her to give him a confused look. The man known as the god of shinobi exclaimed, well done, Naruto.kun. Though I have to wonder why the Rinnegan would be awakened in you. I have to launch the assault right away, the Kazekage thought desperately. As Naruto wavered a little, he was suddenly drawn to a red blur that he instantly recognized as Jiraiya from the Sannin. The Gamma. Sennin spoke with confidence, saying, great work kid, keep this up and you'll reach your dream in no time at all. With his eyes closed, Naruto asked a feeble, arrow, Sennin. In order to protect his godson from harm, Jiraiya nodded and said, sleep now, kid. You earned it. However, a moment later, a massive purple barrier was erected around the cage's booth roof, and a genjutsu dropped onto the stadium. This was the start of what would eventually be known as the Suna-Oto invasion, as a combined attack force of Oto and Suna nins attacked the village that was concealed by the leaves. Fire Country. Hospital Konoha. The morning sun streamed through the open window, making Naruto sigh. With another moan, he rubbed his eyes and sat up, taking in his surroundings. It was a white room, and he knew from experience that this was the hospital. Even though the villagers had not hurt him directly, he was still an orphan and would occasionally get hurt. A voice said, you're awake, brat. That's good, from the window, and he quickly turned to face it. Arrow. Sennin. Naruto exclaimed with joy. What are you doing here? Of course, to see you. What? Didn't you think I would visit to check on my students' progress? Jiraiya questioned, seeming hurt. That infuriated Naruto, who said, I bet you'd rather be off peeking though. Jiraiya smiled, but his face darkened in an instant. That's right. But for now, I'm unable to. Tell me, Naruto, what's the last thing you remember? I remember that I beat Gaara, but then, it's a blank, Naruto said, placing a hand on his head before responding. Jiraiya informed him, that's when you passed out from exhaustion. I wish you hadn't used the Kuchio's no jutsu in the middle of the stadium, but nice work with it nonetheless. Jiraiya told him, be thankful nobody was hurt, because otherwise you would be in a cell right now rather than a hospital bed. With weakness, Naruto apologized. The Gamma. Sennin said, don't worry about it, you got off lucky. Before continuing, he shook his head, that jutsu of yours. Which name did you give it? Shinra Tensai. Huh, that's easily an S-rank jutsu and an extremely powerful one at that, Naruto said, nodding in agreement. I possess an S-rank jutsu. Heh, you better believe it, Naruto grinned. Jiraiya, on the other hand, had different opinions. You weren't able to control it appropriately though. I watched you at the very end. You still need to work on your gravity manipulation. With a sad nod, Naruto said, I know. That made the Gamma. Sennin sigh. We'll work on that later, he said. Perhaps instead of blowing everything away like you've been doing, we could focus on drawing things to ourselves. Who won, by the way? Knowing that he couldn't have carried on fighting in his current state, Naruto asked. No one is able to. Following your match, Konoha was on the verge of being destroyed, the Gamma, Sennin informed him. That caused Naruto's eyes to widen. You mean almost destroyed? What took place? As soon as your match ended, Suna and Oto united to attack Konoha. There were casualties, but we prevailed and beat them back before they could do too much damage, Jiraiya remarked somberly. Who died? Rarely did Naruto stammer. but he was unable to avoid it. The Gamma. Sennin replied, my former sensei, the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto's fists clenched as visions of the man he'd considered a grandfather flashed through his mind. The old man is, damn it. He was cut off abruptly. How did he? It was my disloyal teammate. Hello, Orochimaru. With the help of his Oto nins, he killed Sarutobi. Sensei, Jiraiya replied, anticipating the question. Naruto assured him that, he'll pay for that. Understanding, Jiraiya nodded, his time will come, but not now. So what do we do now? Wondering where they would go next, Naruto asked. I'm going to search for an old friend of mine, though. Jiraiya sighed and said, her name's Tsunade. The council wants her to become the Yondaime Hokage. A new Hokage. Without knowing his thoughts on the matter, Naruto trailed off. Chunin Uzumaki, I'm also bringing you along, Jiraiya grinned. I made Chunin, was what made Naruto's eyes widen at what he had said. You defeated the I the Jinchuuriki before a planned invasion, Jiraiya said, nodding in agreement. You made Chunin kid, of course. Naruto smiled and said, thank you. The Gamma. Sennin said to him, you don't have to thank me kid, and he turned to face the door. Knock, knock, can we come in? Ino asked, poking her head inside as the door opened a little. Yes, this is it for us. Jiraiya told her, I was just leaving anyhow, and then she opened the door to reveal their sensei and the entire group of people known as the Konoha 12. With his back to his pupil, Jiraiya spoke again over his shoulder. Naruto, I'll speak with you later. After the funeral tomorrow, come see me at the southern gates. As he went, Naruto nodded and said, I'll see you then. Hey Naruto, who was the old guy? Gazing at the whereabouts of the old guy, Kiba inquired. My new sensei is also very strong. He defeated a Jonin with a single blow and appeared to be having no trouble at all, Naruto replied, recollecting their initial meeting. That was Jiraiya. Sama, Asuma said. Amazing man, you really kicked Gaara in the ass, Kiba exclaimed with barely restrained excitement. Naruto answered honestly, yeah, well, I don't think I could have done it without help. Indeed, what's wrong with your eyes these days? I was unaware that you had a family tree, Kiba posed the question that was on everyone's minds. Well, honestly, I'm not sure. I don't know how I got it, because I'm an orphan and have never known who my parents are, was Naruto's honest response. Shikamaru said, now that I think about it, Naruto, you don't really talk about yourself much, which caused some of the group to acquiesce and raise an eyebrow. You constantly boast about your plans to become Hokage, but I've never once heard you boast about something you've really accomplished. He clarified, you didn't even boast about what you did to the Hokage monument a while back. Naruto said, I don't know what you mean, just to move the conversation along. You aren't even boasting about how you defeated Gaara and defeated Chunin, Shikamaru deadpanned, cutting off any further comments. Why you made Chunin? Astonished, Ino asked. Chunin had not even been made by Sasuke-kun yet. Nervously, Naruto answered, heir, yeah. Well done, man, Kiba patted the bedridden boy. How were you introduced to Shikamaru? With a knowing smile on her face, Kurenai questioned the young Nara. I mean, only Jonin and above know who was promoted. I heard about it when I found out I was promoted to Chunin also, Shikamaru sighed in defeat. Really? Though it shouldn't come as a surprise given how much planning he showed in his match against Temari, Ino asked in surprise. Difficult, Shikamaru whispered. Let's go celebrate, Kiba said, straightening his posture. In the corner Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura, two of Naruto's teammates, each had an opinion on the subject. How did the Dobi get to be so powerful? How was it possible for him to possess a Dujutsu stronger than my Sharingan, which was insufficient to defeat Gaara? Sasuke stared at Naruto's beaming face and thought, what have I been doing all this time? Sasuke-kun. Sakura glanced over her crush, thinking worriedly. All of the fallen ninja from the Oto invasion, including the gentle and powerful Yondaime Hokage, had their funerals the following day. Everyone who attended the ceremony experienced tears, and the sky itself shed tears for the passing of a great man. But in the end, it was over, and as everyone slowly departed, the sky cleared. When Naruto arrived at the village's southern gates, he noticed something strange. Jiraiya was standing next to a girl, who was exactly 13 years old. Arrow. Sennin, you're not a pedophile, I promise. I assumed that was the hubby. Tem's domain, grinned Naruto. That incensed Jiraiya, who said, I'm not a pedophile brat. This cute little girl is from Kumo, and she will be traveling with us. After giving her a long look, Naruto questioned, why? The Gamma. Sennin clarified, apparently she's the new ambassador to Konoha. Again why? Not understanding, Naruto inquired. The girl appeared irritated by this, though Jiraiya nearly thought she was a tiny Tsunade based on the expression on her face. Her long blonde hair was tucked out of her face and hung around her head. If he were to be honest with himself, the dark purple outfit she was wearing fit her surprisingly well. She would resemble the woman exactly if she dressed in Tsunade's clothes, albeit younger. Do you find this problematic? Idiot, it's not like I want to be here, complained the girl. What did you call me? Narrowing his eyes, Naruto spoke. Why did I call you an idiot? What steps will you take to address this? Grinning, the Kumo Chunin inquired. Jiraiya interrupted Naruto before he could respond, saying, she's also the Raikage's granddaughter. Her name is Yugito Yatsuki ni. For a moment, Yugito had a smug expression as she considered how he would act like the others now that he knew who I was related to. After pausing briefly, Naruto scowled and said, I don't care if she's his grandmother. I thought it would just be the two of us, Jiraiya, sensei, so she shouldn't be here. His words caused Yugito's eyes to widen with surprise. What did he just? She asked. Jiraiya turned to walk away, shaking his head and saying, sorry brat, but she's coming with us. Oh no, it can't get any worse, murmured Naruto, trailing behind. Hey wait up, Yugito rang back to them. The three of them stopped after walking for almost half a day to make camp for the night, or rather, Jiraiya and Naruto were making camp. It had been an hour since Yugito vanished. I was expecting you to teach me a new jutsu, not just walk all day, Naruto muttered to himself while attempting to light a campfire. From the trees, Jiraiya called out, Naruto, come here. Following his sensei into the trees, Naruto eventually came upon what appeared to be rocks. The clearing was dotted with enormous boulders that appeared to have been carved quite deeply. What is this? Inquired Naruto. With a serious tone, Jiraiya informed him, this is all the work of our new friend Yugito-san, nodding his head in the direction of the unconscious Kunoichi. He clarified, she passed out from exhaustion a few minutes ago. Naruto muttered, she's strong, surveying the damage. Jiraiya answered, yes, she is, she's the I the Jinchuuriki. You've mentioned that word before, what does Jinchuuriki mean? Having never heard the word before, Naruto inquired. Power of the human sacrifice, is what it literally means, but it's actually a classification. The Gamma. Sennin replied, it usually applies to those that have demons sealed inside of them, like you. That's right, Naruto muttered. Quote. So she's like me, he inquired. Jiraiya gave a nod, then spoke, yes, she is. Two jutsus that I will teach you are both A-rank jutsus. The Konoha Chunin questioned, you're going to teach me now. I also want you to work on trying to reverse your control on gravity, Jiraiya said, nodding once more. Instead of shooting things away, try to draw them in. The first jutsu I'll teach you was developed by a previous pupil of mine. This works out perfectly because he wanted you to have it and, from what I've heard, Kakashi was going to teach you when you made Chunin anyhow. Who wanted me to have it? Naruto inquired incoherently. The Gamma. Sennin answered, my former student, the Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. At that, Naruto's eyes grew wide. He wanted me to. Jiraiya gave him a warning, watch carefully, and then extended his hand to spin a lot of chakra in its palm. It shrank into an ideal ball of power and became visible in a matter of moments. This jutsu is called the Rasengan, he said as he slammed it into a tree moments later, causing it to explode outward and destroy the tree as well as send shockwaves behind it. It was just cool, was all Naruto could say. Though it took the Yondaime 3 years to create, and a year for me to learn, it is incredibly difficult to learn. If you are not able to grasp it right away, do not be alarmed, Jiraiya advised. With a simple smile, Naruto said, I'll finish it in a month. That's a commitment. Are you serious? Raising an eyebrow, Jiraiya inquired. Good luck then, he smiled at his apprentice's nod. What's the other jutsu you're going to teach me? Hoping for another strong one like the last, Naruto asked. Ah, Jiraiya's eyes hardened and he trailed off. I wasn't really planning on teaching you this one, but with another Jinchuuriki on this mission I can't help but want to be prepared for anything, so he extended his left hand and sealed it multiple times. Gogyo Fuin, he said, his 5 fingertips visible beneath a sea of purple flames that revealed kanji. This jutsu was specifically designed to disable Jinchuuriki. If it is applied to a Jinchuuriki's seal, then their biju's power will be closed off to them, said the Gamma Sennin. So you're teaching me this one because, glancing over at Yugito's unconscious form, Naruto trailed off. Jiraiya informed him, it's just a precaution, just in case she decides to try something. After that, he approached the girl and lifted her, saying, come on. We ought to return to the camp. All right, Naruto nodded in comprehension and trailed behind his sensei, but he couldn't help but fix his gaze on the girl's dozing face. She's adorable. How on earth am I saying this? I think Sakura-chan is cute. Country of Fire. Shukuba Town. They had stopped at a town 10 kilometers away from Konoha, and it had been 2 weeks since they had left the city. At the moment, Jiraiya was somewhere in the town, getting in touch with his network of spies, but Yugito and Naruto assumed he was just out snooping again. Speaking of our 2 favorite blondes, they were both talking about the Oto-Suna attack on Konoha 2 weeks ago, among other things, in the hotel room they had reserved. From his perch on the bed, Naruto questioned the Kumo Nin, wait, you saw me beat Gaara? Yugito replied, yeah, I saw it. You were reckless and downright stupid for summoning Gamabunta of all things to fight in a Chunin exam stadium. You're just lucky no one was hurt by your attacks, or his. Don't I know it? Naruto said in a menacing tone. After giving him a brief look, Yugito turned away and said, though, you did look kinda cool out there. Really? A shocked Naruto asked. Damn, don't let it get to your head, Yugito merely snorted in response to his tone. Nervously, Naruto laughed and asked, what about you? He went on, I mean, Ero. Sennin said you were like me and Gaara. There's not much to say really, I'm an only child. My parents are long dead and my grandfather and uncle have raised me since I was 6, replied Yugito. No, I meant the entire Jin, I can't remember what it is again, Naruto moaned, frustrated that he couldn't think of the appropriate phrase. Jinchuuriki, Yugito informed him. Yeah, that. I mean, from what I saw of Gaara. He was brought up to be a weapon for his village. I was used to stop a demon from destroying my home. What about you? Naruto was curious. Yugito chuckled for a moment. My parents had a lot of enemies, so my father decided to give me a weapon of sorts to defend myself. He knew I wouldn't survive long since I was their daughter, so he sacrificed himself to give me the power needed to fight on. He must have cared for you a lot then, Naruto said with a sorrowful smile. Yugito whispered, but I never even got the chance to meet him. Hey, he said to catch her eye. At least you know why you were chosen and you know your parents loved you. That's what matters, she was told by Naruto. Just as Yugito was about to reply, knock, knock. A knock on the door was heard. Naruto complained as he got to his feet. Ero. Sennin can't have been rejected already. But then he abruptly stopped and fixed his gaze on the Rinnegan door. Yugito exclaimed, is something wrong, idiot? With irritation. Something's wrong here, or my Rinnegan is acting funny, Naruto said as he stepped back. Seeing that Yugito's eyes were on, he asked, what do you mean? Naruto informed her, from what I can see, Sasuke is on the other side of the door. He was able to discern the 2 chakra networks. Confused, Yugito questioned, your team mate here, why? That's the problem. From what I'm seeing, this guy is a lot bigger than the Sasuke I know. Whoever's on the other side of that door is not Sasuke, replied Naruto. Knock, knock, Yugito said, well, whoever it is, I don't think they're leaving anytime soon, as she drew a kunai and moved slowly up to the door. Oh no, she thought as she cautiously opened the door and stepped back to see who was standing there. So these are the Jinchuuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune and the Nibi no Nekomata. I expected more from them, remarked a tall, shark-like man with massive zanpato and blue skin. Naruto stared at the 2 over and trailed off, He looks just like Sasuke. Yugito was shaking and said, I recognize them from the bingo book. They're S-rank criminals. The blue one is Hoshigaki Kitsune. He's a member of the 7 shinobi swordsmen of the Hidden Mist and said to be the second strongest of them all. The other though, he's a Nukenin from Konoha. He's the man who slaughtered the Uchiha clan in a single night, Uchiha Itachi. Naruto asked, Uchiha, as his eyes grew wide. Itachi muttered, you two will have to come with us, Yugito, Chan and Naruto. Yugito scowled at him, that's not happening. I'll simply chop off their legs to prevent them from fleeing, Kitsune declared as he moved forward and brought his sword down to strike Yugito where he was standing. Come here, girlie, he said with a shark-like grin. Yugito whispered, Keizuki, and her right arm seemed to burst into blazing red flames. The big Zanpato in her arm locked, causing them to become immobile. Yugito winced a little as she felt her own jutsu melting her hand. She had to try even though she knew she couldn't hold it for very long. It was then that she realized Kisami's sword was draining her chakra. My chakra, she stammered as she made an effort to stop the swordsman. Heh, now you get it. Samahata here absorbs chakra. It's the best weapon for fighting you demons, Kitsune smiled down at her. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu was the hand seal that Naruto most commonly used, and 3 shadow clones materialized next to him. The third one grabbed Yugito by the waist while the other 2 sprinted to attack Kitsune from either side of him right away. Kitsune brought down his sword where she was standing a moment ago without Yugito holding it back, and then he quickly shredded the 2 clones that were attacking him. Kitsune grinned and remarked, fast little bugger, as Yugito and Naruto moved to the far side of the room, close to the window. Without taking his eyes off Itachi, who hasn't moved since they first met, Naruto asked, are you alright? It's nothing, Yugito remarked, gesturing to her now burned right limb. She was using medical ninjutsu to repair the damage and was requesting a moment to complete the task. With a done, Naruto extended his hand to the 2 Nukenins. He yelled, Shinra Tensei, and the door, a portion of the wall, and both Nukenins were blown from their positions by a tremendous force of gravity. As the dust started to settle, Naruto asked, did I get them? Not a chance, Yugito muttered as she noticed the building's other side was visible through the cleared dust. The phrase, other side of the building, refers to the fact that Naruto's most recent attack destroyed a significant portion of the structure, leaving the second floor of the complex completely destroyed and reduced to rubble. There was a brief silence during which 2 pieces of the debris moved upward, allowing Itachi and Kitsune to escape with only minor injuries. The last attack didn't even seem to have affected them. In fact, Kitsune was beaming widely. You got the Rinnegan, which is surprising, the swordsman remarked, raising his weapon. Not bad brats. I had heard the tales about you having it and I saw your eyes when I first saw you but I didn't think anything of it, Itachi said, his Sharingan now spinning wildly. Naruto muttered, well damn, as the sun streamed through the open space. For the first time, Yugito said, we could be in trouble here, believing they had bitten off more than they could handle. But right then, the most bizarre thing occurred. Itachi had to look away from Naruto when a new presence appeared behind the 2 Nukenins. Itachi called out to his brother, Sasuke, without looking. Uchiha Itachi, spit out Sasuke as Itachi gave him a sidelong glance. Kitsune grunted and said, who's this twerp? Itachi, who seemed bored, replied, my little brother, the only one I spared during the Uchiha massacre. Go away Sasuke, you're of no concern to me right now. Just as you said, I have hated and despised you. Now I will show you my power, Sasuke bellowed as he moved forward, performing multiple hand seals. He said, Chidori, and as he got close to Itachi, lightning struck, encasing his hand. Everything transpired quickly. Sasuke attempted to stab Itachi, but Itachi quickly grabbed his wrist and slammed him into the ground, leaving a small crater. Itachi picked him back up after the Chidori vanished and hurled him into the adjacent wall. The question was barely audible above a whisper, but everyone could hear Itachi ask, why are you still so weak? Is it because you don't have enough hatred? Why is there still such a big gap in our strength? What have we been doing all this time? As he fought back the pain she felt, Sasuke asked himself in reflection. Itachi whispered, Mangekyo Sharingan, as his eyes changed slightly and he once more picked up Sasuke's battered body. As soon as they locked eyes, Itachi uttered the terrifying word, Tsukuyomi, in a whisper. Sasuke's body went into a spasm for a short while, then he stopped moving and Itachi threw him to the ground. Damn Itachi, you're too cruel sometimes. To use that genjutsu on your own brother, damn that's nasty. Kitsune laughed at what he saw. Without replying, Itachi returned his focus to the two Chunin and asked, now where were we? Naruto, let's go, Yugito muttered to him. Not without Sasuke. Naruto shook his head. Itachi said, Kitsune get them, and the swordsman grinned and nodded. But as he was about to move, Kuchio's, Gamaguchi Shibari, was yelled. All of them were suddenly engulfed in a red flesh corridor of some sort. Kitsune asked, what is this? As he cast a glance around. My jutsu, someone said. As everyone turned to face Sasuke, they saw Jiraiya crouching next to him. He told his two friends, Naruto, Yugito, don't move. I'll handle this. Arrow. Sennin, Naruto let out a relieved sigh. No wonder Kakashi knew who we were and why we went to Konoha. He must have gotten that information from you, Itachi muttered, staring at the man. Jiraiya of the Sannin, he said. So you really are after Naruto and Yugito, Jiraiya said, standing up straight and looking at the two Nukenins with an unusually serious expression. To capture all of the 9. That is the order given to us by our organization, Akatsuki, Itachi said, just staring at him. The two Chunin stiffened, realizing that the phrase, 9, probably referred to the creatures with 9 tails. We have been sent to capture them. Jiraiya said, his voice sharp, too bad for you, you're not getting your hands on them. Instead of answering, Itachi turned to face his companion and said, come, Kitsune. We're leaving. With a nod from his partner, they started walking down the hallway. Not so fast, Jiraiya remarked, driving chakra into the earth so that, in an attempt to crush the two Akatsuki operatives, the walls, where they had taken refuge collapsed. The small whisper, Amaterasu, echoed through the corridors after a few moments of silence. There was a loud explosion heard next, and then nothing. When Jiraiya abruptly bolted forward and turned the corner, he discovered that the large mountain toad he had called forth had been partially blown out and that portions of the hole's edge were covered in black flames. The Gamma. Sennin muttered, damn, they got away, as he released his jutsu and the hallway and the building as a whole returned to normal. He approached the remaining black flames and said, this should do it, as he withdrew a sealing scroll. He spread the scroll out and wrote, Fukahoin, after writing something on it. Suddenly, the flames vanished and were drawn into the scroll. I'm not sure what that was, but I'll find out. Naruto questioned, who were those guys? Arrow. Sennin. As he pressed Sasuke up against the wall. They said they were after the 9. They were referring to the Biju, right? Yugito responded. That's right. I don't know what they want the Biju for, but it can't be for anything good, Jiraiya said with a nod in response. With his Rinnegan activated, Naruto uttered, so let's go deal with them. With a hint of bitterness in his voice, he said, if they want us, then I want to see them try. You wouldn't stand a chance against even one of them as you are now, Jiraiya said, shaking his head. To which Naruto replied, then what do we do then? Just sit around and wait for them to capture us? With incredulity. What do you do? Hey, that's simple really. Get stronger so you can fight then yourselves, the Gamma. Sennin merely snorted at that. After a brief step back, Naruto nodded and said, okay. Yugito said, hey, grabbing their attention. For some reason nothing I'm trying is working on this guy. Any idea what kind of jutsu that was Itachi used on him? She asked, sitting over where Sasuke lay and her hands glowing green. It's probably something to do with the Mangekyo Sharingan, Jiraiya replied, shaking his head. The what? Naruto asked, not knowing what the term meant. The Mangekyo Sharingan is the final stage of the Sharingan and is extremely powerful. I don't know what its full capabilities are, but I do know that the last Mangekyo Sharingan user became the head of the Uchiha clan back during the reign of the Yondaime Hokage, Jiraiya said. Yugito laughed as he said, you forgot to mention the guy turned into a madman and tried to kill Yondaime Hokage at the Valley of the End. Quote. Despite not saying anything at that point, Jiraiya nodded. Gazing out of the hole Itachi had made, Naruto inquired, how many of those losers are there exactly? 9. Jiraiya eventually responded. Yugito's eyes grew wide. 9. Jiraiya replied, there would be 10 but Orochimaru is no longer a member of that organization. Naruto asked, his voice barely audible above a whisper, but filled with such fury it was almost frightening. The hubby. Tem was a member. He was until he defected from it in order to start his own little hidden village somewhere in Rice Country, replied the Gamma. Senin. Naruto said, peering down at his unconscious teammate. Sasuke will be alright, won't he? Jiraiya murmured, physically he'll be fine. It's his mentality I'm worried about. I'll inform Kakashi about it later, so don't worry. A green blur materialized in front of him, and he tensely spun around to face the opening in the wall. Guy. Jiraiya barely avoided a kick intended for his head, and the green-clad Jonin halted his attack upon realizing who it was. What the hell are you doing? The man asked. I apologize. For a moment there, I thought you were the enemy, Guy said, surveying the area. Observing the wall that had been blown away, he questioned, was I too late? It seems like I arrived too late, Jiraiya remarked, pointing to Sasuke's motionless form. I think this is the same jutsu that was used on Kakashi earlier today. He's bedridden and we can't seem to wake him up, Guy said, squinting his eyes at the young Uchiha. Jiraiya thought darkly, Kakashi was also attacked, huh? As he turned to leave, he remarked, all the more reason to find Tsunade. Guy, can you take the Uchiha back to Konoha? We still have a mission to do and we can't delay it, he said. I'll head back now. Good luck, said Guy, nodding and picking up Sasuke. We're going to need it, Jiraiya said with a nod. Tanzaku Town, Fire Country. This is new, Jiraiya finally uttered while glancing at the ruined palace. You don't say, Yugito said in a sarcastic tone. However, Jiraiya disregarded her and noticed that people were fleeing the destruction in all directions. He yelled, hey, to one of them as they ran by. He questioned, what happened here? The man appeared to be in a panic, but he was able to gather himself enough to respond, there are monsters up there, so you should all get out of here too. Monsters? Inquired Naruto. A massive snake just instantly destroyed the palace, the man said, nodding. Naruto's eyes briefly turned gray, and he trailed off, a giant snake. Yugito was curious and asked, how big was this snake? The man replied, huge, and then resumed his run. The hubby. Tem has arrived, Naruto bellowed. Jiraiya replied, it would appear so. I shouldn't be surprised. After all, Sarutobi Sensei did a number on him. Of course he would come to the only medic in the elemental countries who could actually heal him. I'm going to kill him, was Naruto's simple statement. Not as you are now. He's up there with Itachi and I. Even with the Rinnegan there's no way you can take him on, Jiraiya replied. Naruto remarked, not usually, but you did say he's weakened right now. That may be true, but if anyone will fight him here, it's going to be me, Jiraiya said, nodding in response. Yugito said, hey you two, to catch their attention. I can sense 2 chakra signatures above civilian level just north of here. I think the larger of the two is Tsunade. Sama, she said, her hands sealed in a seal. With curiosity, Jiraiya asked, you're a sensory type? And she nodded. A what? Inquired Naruto. Jiraiya said, a sensory type is someone who can locate and recognize other people's chakra signatures, and she turned to move. Come on. Let's go meet Tsunade. Jiraiya said, it looks like we missed the party, as the three leapt into the street that had been completely destroyed, close to the destroyed building. There were cracks in the wall nearby, and it appeared as though it would give way at any time. Naruto peered at the wall cracks and asked, did the hubby, Tem, do this? I don't believe so. I think this is Tsunade's work. She probably lost her temper again, Jiraiya said, shaking his head. I can't track them. There's too much chakra in the area now. Not sure what from, Yugito said, shaking her head as she surveyed her surroundings. Quote. Jiraiya said nothing while surveying the surroundings. Gazing over his shoulder at them, Naruto said, well, let's go look for them. I mean, they have to be around here somewhere, right? Yugito informed the two, they're still in town, but I can't find out exactly where they are. Okay, let's ask around, maybe someone has seen her, Jiraiya said, nodding. With the moon shining brightly in the sky, night descended upon the land. With only the bars open at this moment, silence descended upon the town as its deceptive rays bore down upon it. Two kunoichi were in one of those establishments. The older one was dressed in black and appeared to be in her mid-20s. No one in the bar seemed to mind that she looked like she was holding a pig. The blonde kunoichi next to her, though, was a little different. Although she looked to be in her early 20s, there was something off about her. In a matter of seconds, she was downing another bottle of sake, her cheeks flushed. The dark-haired woman at her side thought, Tsunade-sama, as she glanced at her. A girl's voice suggested, you know she might have skipped town after running into that snake freak, as three figures entered the bar. Somehow I doubt that. She's probably still here somewhere. Either way, let's get something to eat. You two must be starving, said a stern voice. This is a bar called Arrow. Senin, a boy said with a deadpan tone. Well, I'll be damned, the adult member of the group said as he turned to face the two people seated there. The blonde woman asked, Jiraiya, as she noticed his aged face. His eyes widened slightly in surprise. Tsunade. Not sure what else to say, she asked him, what the hell are you doing here? Is that Tsunade? Is she really 50 years old? She doesn't look it, remarked the fair-haired boy standing beside the Gama. Senin. Yugito said, it's probably some jutsu. But Jiraiya simply sighed and shook his head, saying, I should have known, of course you would be at a bar. To answer your question, we were looking for you, he grinned as the three took a seat across from him. Me, hey, I've been seeing a lot of familiar faces lately, she inquired while taking up a new sake cup. Well, we saw Orochimaru's handiwork outside. He always did go overboard with that kind of thing sometimes, Jiraiya rasped. What did he want from you anyway? He asked, raising an eyebrow in the process. The Katsuyu. Senin answered, nothing really, he just stopped by to say hello. Even though Jiraiya didn't think that was true, he didn't want to confront the matter, so he said nothing and asked, why were you looking for me anyway? Okay, I'll get straight to the point. The elders of Konoha want you to become the Yondaime Hokage, Jiraiya said. They want me to what? Tsunade asked, her eyes widening at that. Become the Yondaime Hokage. Effective immediately, she was told. He said, if you met Orochimaru, then you know that Sarutobi Sensei was killed by him during the recent attack on Konoha by Oto and Suna, without omitting anything. So what do you say? She asked, nodding. After a full 30 seconds of silence, Tsunade said quite clearly, I'm not like your last student Jiraiya, life is not like money and to risk it is a fool's errand. Sorry, but no thanks. Recalling the fate of his final pupil seemed to harden Jiraiya's eyes, you've changed Tsunade. She chuckled darkly at her own words, time changes people, I mean look at the old geezer. Look what protecting the village got him, a coffin 6 feet under, just like Namikaze Minato. Hearing the old woman say, this is Tsunade of the Sanin. I wonder how long she's been like this for, Yugito pondered. With barely suppressed rage, Naruto uttered, we might as well get out of here Jiraiya. Sensei, before we both do something we might regret. Senju Tsunade is dead. All that's left is this and she's not fit to become Hokage, he said. I am the granddaughter of the Shodaime Hokage and the grandniece of the Nadaime Hokage. I'm more than fit to run that little collection of wooden homes, Tsunade said, squinting her eyes at him. No you're not, Naruto glared back. I think someone who can't even save the ones they care about isn't worthy of becoming Hokage. What do you think Tsunade? He joked. She widened her eyes and focused onto Jiraiya, who was staring impassively. Arrow. Senin told me on the way here what happened to the man you loved, to your little brother, and I will tell you right now. They fought to protect others with their lives. They never gave up even when they died. That's what it means to be Hokage. That's the will of fire the old man always preached about, and that is something you just don't have. The village is illuminated by the shadow of the fire, Jiraiya pondered, recalling how frequently his previous pupil used to say that. He growled, his chakra igniting and his eyes going red. You can sit there all day and moan about what life has done to you. But if you think I'll sit by and let you insult the things that the old man and the Yondaime have done, then I will kick your ass, he said. Tsunade merely gazed at him, asking, Jiraiya, who is this kid? This is Uzumaki Naruto, said the Gama. Senin with a simple smile in return. Is he that kid, I wonder? Tsunade almost immediately had one leg firmly planted on the table and a smile spreading across her face. He acts just like her. It was a simple question, how about we take this outside brat? Naruto responded, fine by me, getting up from the table. It's going to be one of those days, sighed Jiraiya. What the devil is that idiot doing? Is he attempting to kill himself? As she, Jiraiya, and Shizune followed the two, Yugito pondered the question. After walking out into the street, the two said, I must be going senile. I'm taking on a kid, how embarrassing, as they stood about 20 feet apart. Naruto said, let's go wild, and sealed his palm. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he said, and 5 clones materialized next to him. Is he aware that Kage Bunshin lacks jutsu? The clones charged, but she held up one finger, saying, not bad, but clones won't help him against me. The ground in front of her abruptly split in half as soon as she touched it, saying, too easy. As his clones tumbled into the little ravine she had made, she raised her gaze to him and said, let me ask you something, kid. Why are you so fussed over the Hokages? With a smile of his own, Naruto replied, because becoming Hokage is my dream. At that, her eyes grew wide, I see. Time slowed for a moment, Rinnegan, as Naruto's eyes transitioned from a blue dot red haze to a dark gray with multiple rings surrounding the pupils. Upon witnessing what had happened to his eyes, Tsunade's eyes grew even wider. Those eyes are, but that's impossible. I mean the Rinnegan has only ever appeared in, she exclaimed, shooting forward and clenching her fist. There's no way he can have those eyes. 2 simple words, Shinra Tensei, reverberated throughout the street, and Tsunade found herself being blasted back by an invisible force. As she hit the floor, she thought, this jutsu is. After a moment, she stood back up and said, I never thought I would see those eyes again, but it didn't have the same power or pressure as hers did. However, I have to ask myself, if he is an Uzumaki, why does he have blonde hair? I was mistaken if he had the Rinnegan, I assumed it was just a name. Come on you old hag. If you can't even beat me, then how are you strong enough to be Hokage? Looks like I was right. You really aren't worthy of the title, Naruto grinned. Tsunade thought of a certain red-headed tomboy and thought, he's purposely trying to get me angry so that I make a mistake, he's definitely got her unpredictability down right. I have to take her by surprise if I want to end this now. How? Naruto thought, narrowing his eyes and bringing both of his hands together at his side, maybe that jutsu will help me here. It's not like I can just piss her off like I do everyone else. This is it, he thought to himself as he began to channel chakra into his hands and rapidly rotate them. Go on, hold it in, squeeze it out. As he sprinted ahead, he kept thinking, don't lose control. It's the, Tsunade thought, her eyes widening with shock. But she quickly moved past it and said, that was too close, grabbing his wrist just before he launched the attack. The Rasengan, huh? She questioned, turning to face her former teammate, was it you who taught him that jutsu? A bit cruel of you to teach him a jutsu he has no chance of mastering. She gave him a sly smile before slamming his jutsu into the ground at her feet. Actually, I only started him on it 3 weeks ago and he's already reached the 3rd step. It took me months to reach it, Jiraiya grumbled. I'd give him about a week, 2 tops before he's got it down completely. Jiraiya's eyebrow shot up at that. What? Did you really think I wouldn't recognize that dujutsu? Tsunade snorted, and what about the Rinnegan, huh? The Gamma. Sennin simply observed with curiosity, asking, what do you mean? I'll tell you later, Tsunade snorted and turned her head away. Hey kid, do you want to make a bet? She asked, turning to face Naruto. She was asked by the blonde boy, what kind of bet? She pointed to the necklace that hung from her neck. If you master the Rasengan in a week like the pervert says you can, you'll get this and I will return to Konoha. If you don't, I'll take all of your money and none of you will bother me ever again. Deal. Naruto gave it some thought and then nodded, saying, okay. Tsunade grinned broadly and said, I'll see you in a week, kid. Yugito sighed at the thought, that idiot. Jiraiya shook his head at what he saw and said, it's been one of those days. Subsequently, that evening, Naruto vanished into thin air, leaving no trace behind. Shizune had secured rooms for them all at the nearby inn, and Yugito had accompanied him out of pure boredom. But Jiraiya had invited Tsunade out for a drink with him during the evening. She consented even though she knew he wouldn't let it slide. Tsunade took a drink and said, "So, what did you want to talk about? You're still so uptight, Tsunade." "Hey, if you must know, I wanted to talk about Naruto." Jiraiya shook his head at the tone. With narrowed eyes, she questioned, "Why did you bring him, Jiraiya? More importantly, why does he have blonde hair if he's an Uzumaki?" "I brought him to help convince you to return, but as for being an Uzumaki, well, it's his mother's maiden name if I'm not mistaken, the Gamma," Sennin said, raising an eyebrow in response to the final question. "Jiraiya, all Uzumakis have red hair, that's how it's always been," retorted Tsunade. Jiraiya waved his hand dismissively. "You don't know. That kid is Minato's brat, he gets his looks from his father. That explains the hair. I knew those two got together and that Kushina was pregnant, but I didn't know they had a kid." Tsunade shook her head at that. Curious, Jiraiya said, "I have to know, how did you know he had the Rinnegan? Have you heard the tale of the Rakuto, Sennin?" Tsunade asked, her eyes fixed on the cup she was holding. "If you mean the fact that he was the first shinobi and was the man who discovered chakra, then yes, I've heard of him. Supposedly he's nothing but a myth, but since the Rinnegan is real, I guess he is too," replied Jiraiya. Tsunade laughed as he replied, "Of course he was real. Even if he weren't, he is known to just about everyone in the elemental countries. That said, there is something which almost no one knows outside of a select few." With an eyebrow raised, Jiraiya asked her, "And what might that be?" "He had 2 sons, Jiraiya was taken aback to hear. With incredulity, he questioned, "You're serious?" She responded with a nod. The elder brother was gifted with the sage's eyes and became known as Uchiha Tobi. He was the originator of the Uchiha bloodline and thought peace was best achieved with the use of force. The younger brother, however, was gifted with the sage's marvelous chakra and became known as Senju Naruto. He was my ancestor and the man who created the Senju clan. Jiraiya asked in shock, "Naruto? As in the same name as the brat?" Tsunade nodded in agreement. "I suppose it's fitting that his name was Naruto considering his beliefs. Unlike his elder brother, he thought peace could be achieved through never giving up and always looking towards the future. On his deathbed, the Rakuto Sennin chose him as his successor over his brother just before he died. In doing so, Uchiha Tobi attacked his little brother out of jealousy and anger. This sparked the conflict between the Uchiha and Senju clans all the way through to the founding of Konoha." Jiraiya, who was losing patience, questioned, "That's all well and good, Tsunade, but what does that have to do with Naruto and the Rinnegan?" "I'm working on it," she snapped back. During the clan wars before the shinobi villages were founded, a section of the Senju clan broke off from the main group and wanted to leave in search of a place to call home. They settled on a remote island just off of water country surrounded by hundreds of whirlpools, she said. "Whirlpool country," Jiraiya surmised. Tsunade nodded in agreement. It was relatively peaceful and out of the way. Soon after, though, a man named Senju Arashi awakened the Rinnegan, which came as a very large surprise to the group. When more of them started activating their own Rinnegans, Arashi founded a clan independent of the Senju, which he named after the country itself. "Uzumaki?" Jiraiya inquired, perceiving. Tsunade repeated her nod, "Yes. After the clan wars had ended, the Rinnegan kept appearing in the Uzumaki clan, but not always. Sometimes it skipped a generation and other times it just disappeared. There was one family though that it kept appearing in throughout each generation. That family became the royal family of the Whirlpool country." Jiraiya took the seemingly absurd guess and said, "Don't tell me. Arashi's family, right?" "Yes. Uzumaki Arashi was said to have been a great man who unified the entire Whirlpool country and the small neighboring islands. When it was all said and done, his descendants kept on activating their own Rinnegans," Tsunade went on. "All the way to the former queen of the Whirlpool country, Uzumaki Kushina," she said. At that, Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. "So Naruto is the true heir to the throne?" "He would be if there was a Whirlpool country still around," Tsunade snorted at that. "Yes, I have heard about that," Jiraiya said, closing his eyes. "The Kyuubi no Kitsune destroyed that entire country right before it attacked Fire Country. I never did find out how it got past Water and Lightning countries without anyone noticing though," Tsunade murmured. Jiraiya inquired, "Do you know if anyone survived?" Tsunade nodded her head in agreement, "No. But then again, this the Kyuubi we're talking about, It's said that a single swing of one of its 9 tails can cause a tsunami. I guess they were right. Jiraiya said, his eyes slightly closed. I didn't know Kushina had the Rinnegan, neither she nor Minato ever told me. Tsunade shook her head at the last line. Yeah, well, the only reason I knew was because I was Kushina's doctor before she passed on. Well, Naruto had to get from somewhere. Nagato probably got it from the same place, but he didn't even know what it was until I told him about it, like his parents didn't know, Jiraiya thought. He nodded in response to her inquiry. Nagato. You mean one of those orphans you took care of back during the war? Tsunade informed him that a portion of the Uzumaki had returned to the mainland. You must be correct that it is gradually disappearing from everyone but the royal family, Jiraiya remarked, thinking of his previous pupil with red hair. I can only imagine what Orochimaru will do when he finds out you've met us, he thought. After giving it some thought, Tsunade said, I don't know what you're talking about, once more. I don't know what he's offered you, Tsunade, to make you hesitate like this, but I don't care. I will tell you right now, if you betray Konoha and everything the Hokages stood for, I will kill you, Jiraiya said in a serious tone. Tsunade briefly looked at him but was unable to look him in the eye. I know, she said. They drank silently for the remainder of the evening, anticipating the conflict they both knew was inevitable. Forest country. Fire country. You're not going to do it. I told you I will master it. It's an A-rank jutsu designed by the Yondaime Hokage. You physically can't do it in a month. It just can't be done, idiot. Would you shut up and let me concentrate? Rasengan. He drilled his attack into a tree, and there was a loud boom. But it became unstable and only left a spiral with the words, it's still not good enough, on it. I told you, Yugito sighed. Well, what the hell am I supposed to do then, huh? He asked, giving her a displeased look. She defensively raised her hands, saying, hey, don't bite my head off. I'm just saying this is an A-rank jutsu, you can't expect it to be easy, she said. Your jutsu is an S-rank 1, that Keizuki of yours is insane, he responded. You're just jealous, she smiled. Whatever, he mocked, resuming the chakra channeling to his hand. Rasengan, he said, driving it into a nearby tree, only for it to escape control once more. Exactly what is the problem? She inquired, growing increasingly irritated. His anger was growing as he replied, I already know how it works and the idea behind, but it takes an insane amount of concentration and control just to reach where I am now. I mean, to reach the next level would require more control than I have. It's like trying to look left and right at the same time. It just can't be done. Yugito asked, his head shaking. That's it. That's what this is about. And he nodded. Rai Bunshin no Jutsu. If you want to look left and right at the same time, then why don't you use clones? Asked a lightning clone that instantly materialized next to her. Naruto grinned broadly and said, Yugito, you're a genius. His eyes grew wide. A week later, the two sensed something wasn't quite right as they were walking into their room. Whatever term you want to apply to it, there was something in the air that day. Yugito said, something's wrong, as she opened the door. She called out, hello. We're back, but nobody responded. Rinnegan, Naruto said, his gaze shifting to his dujutsu as he looked around the space. The figure on the floor was immediately recognized by him. It's Shizune. Chan. The moment the unconscious woman fell, Yugito ran to her side, asking, who the hell did this to her? Naruto looked around the room, but he saw nothing, thinking that, whoever it was is long gone now. From what I can tell, she was hit by a blast of pure chakra in a concentrated stream not unlike those used by Konoha's Hyuga clan, only instead of a precision strike like what they do. This appears to have been done with brute force. I doubt she'll be ready for a fight anytime soon. He leaned against the wall and peered out the window, asking, can you do anything? With glowing green hands, she answered, it's nothing I can't fix. Naruto said, we have company, as he assisted Jiraiya in passing through the window into the room. Yugito gasped, oh my god, upon seeing the man's condition. Although he didn't appear to be in any condition to fight right now, he wasn't exactly hurt. What happened? He gasped, Tsunade, as the girl attempted to heal him. She slipped something into my drink last night and left me at the bar. Leave it to her to use an odorless drug to distort my chakra control. There's nothing I can do about this without any knowledge of the drug. The good news is that it should wear off in about an hour or two, Yugito stated to him. The woman had regained consciousness, so Jiraiya said, "That's good, are you going to tell us exactly what is going on now, Shizune?" With a swallow, Shizune nodded and said, "Okay, I'll tell you everything." Plains, Fire Country. The Oto Jonin rushed forward, a pair of kunai in hand, shouting, "You're afraid of blood, aren't you? How about I show you some? I'm going to splatter as much of your blood as I can while keeping you alive." Tsunade staggered to her feet, saying, "I can't dodge in time." Suddenly, a thick plume of smoke rose up from the ground in front of her, obstructing their mutual view. What are you doing here?" Jiraiya, Shizune, Naruto, and Yugito asked as they formed a solid line between her and the two Oto nins as the smoke quickly cleared. "Yeah, it's been a while." Jiraiya, the person in the back, laughed. The Gamma. Sennin smirked and said, "Orochimaru, you're looking as morbid as ever." Naruto grinned the Oto Jonin as soon as he saw him. Kabuto was the Konoha Chunin who recognized him right away. Apparently, these two are acquainted, Jiraiya remarked. Not understanding, Naruto asked, "Why are you fighting with Tsunade, Obeken?" Kabuto smirked and said, "Not too sharp are you, Naruto? That's why you'll never be able to beat Sasuke." You're a traitor, glare from Naruto's Rinnegan grew stronger. He said, "That's right, I work as a spy for Otokage." "Then everything you did for us in the Chunin exam was nothing but a lie," Naruto said, his fists balled up at his sides and his teeth gritted. "I was collecting information on all of you, I discovered some things about you as well. You're different from Sasuke, you don't what it takes to be a shinobi," Kabuto said. "For example, here you're just an out-of-place genin who got lucky at being promoted to Chunin. Sure, I expect something from that demon inside of you, and those eyes of yours caught me off guard, but compared to the Sannin you're a real disappointment. Right now you're nothing more than a..." Yugito, who seemed irritated by the Oto nin's remarks, interjected, asking, "Are you really buying this shit, Naruto? If he was such a bad shinobi, then how come he beat Gaara at the exam? How did he beat that Hyuga brat? How did he get promoted to Chunin? His record should speak for itself," he said with a grin. "Shut it, girl. You are the Raikage's granddaughter, aren't you?" Kabuto glared at her. "Yes, I am, but my record speaks for itself too, just like Naruto's," she stated, a grin that looked like a cat crossing her face. The Oto Jonin said, "You're a Jinchuuriki," after noticing her eyes turn purple. Jiraiya asked the two, "Do you think you can take him? You should be concerned about the other traitor, but we'll be alright," practically spat out the final word. He said, "Yugito," and the two shot forward. "I'll line him up and you knock him down," was the clear message. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, she nodded as 4 clones materialized at his side in an instant. Shitless, Kabuto scoffed as he pulled out 2 kunai and slashed the first 2 clones until they turned to smoke. When the other 2 clones approached from his side, he swiftly eliminated them as well with 2 precisely timed, Chakura no Mesu, chakra strikes to their chests. When he sensed a change in temperature, his eyes widened in shock and he exclaimed, "The smoke from the clones is obstructing my vision. I am unable to discern the source of their attack." Keizuki, he shot away from the whisper as soon as he heard it. Yugito lunged at him with what looked to be an arm covered in flames as he emerged from the smoke. With the blade slicing cleanly across the front of his vest, he barely avoided the attack. In midair, he made hand seals and leapt away, saying, "I can't let her get close or I'll be killed." Kaden, Kasumi Endo no Jutsu. He exhaled as he released a thick cloud of smoke at them after taking a deep breath. Yugito's eyes widened as the flames on her attempted to consume her as the cloud suddenly covered the 2 Chunin. The whisper, "Shinra Tensai," was abruptly followed by a force of gravity. "Are you alright?" Naruto asked as he grabbed her as she fell, putting out the flames in an instant. With a wince, she started tending to her burnt arm. "I'll be fine," she said. "You know, I've been trying to figure out how a loser like you, someone with absolutely no talent whatsoever, can have that dujutsu. Sadly, no matter what I tried, I couldn't seem to get any information on you from Konoha or anywhere else. It was like you didn't exist, like you weren't even born, and yet you were born." All I managed to find was a name. Uzumaki Kushina, Kabuto observed as Jiraiya and Tsunade the spelling. So you know that name Jiraiya, Tsunade. I wonder why you haven't told the brat that he's the heir to the Whirlpool country's throne. Yugito, Shizune, and Naruto all widened their eyes at that. What are you talking about, a traitor? Naruto growled, causing his eyes to briefly flash red. Uzumaki Kushina was the last queen of the Whirlpool country. When she was pregnant with you, she came to Konoha since it had the best doctors in all of the nations. When she was gone, however, her country came under attack from Kyuubi no Kitsune and the entire place was leveled. She apparently died in childbirth when Kyuubi attacked Konoha and you were used as a living weapon to stop a demon, explained the Oto Jonin. Jiraiya surprised everyone by saying, living weapon. Actually, the Yondaime chose him as his successor, with a sly smile. Namikaze Minato was a man of honor. He wouldn't grab a random child to stop the Kyuubi. He chose Naruto to surpass him in every shape and form. Plain and simple. As for Kushina Chan, well, she also had the Rinnegan, so of course he got it from her. The last bit of information alarmed everyone but Tsunade. Naruto questioned him over his shoulder. You knew that you were her kid? Yeah. It was pretty obvious since your personality is almost identical to hers, said the Gamma Sennin. Though I didn't know you were royalty until Tsunade told me, he continued. Looking at the blonde woman, Naruto asked, how would she know? As she struggled to stand, Tsunade told him, I'll explain later. Naruto nodded and turned back to face the two Oto nins. Right, he said. Orochimaru smirked and rolled up his arm sleeve to reveal what appeared to be a summoning seal. Enough of this farce, Kabuto, he said. Jiraiya bit his thumb, formed hand seals, and exclaimed, oh shit, at the same moment that Kabuto did the same. The two exclaimed, Kuchio's no jutsu, as two substantial columns of smoke appeared. When the smoke cleared, Jiraiya had only conjured up Gamakichi, a tiny toad, whereas Orochimaru had conjured up two snakes. Yo, gestured the tiny toad. Jiraiya grimaced and thought, damn it, my chakra must be royally screwed up right now. Orochimaru laughed as he saw it. There's still no cure for stupidity, Jiraiya. Even for an idiot like you, that's pathetic. Tsunade must have done something to you, kukukukuku, pathetic as always. Go fuck yourself, pedophile. I know you've got the whole evil bad guy theme going for you, but you are seriously starting to piss me off, Yugito replied. Kukukuku, little girl, you have no idea who you are messing with, the hubby, Sennin said, laughing at her blatant attempt to provoke him. And neither do you, she shot back with a growl. Kuchio's no jutsu, Naruto exclaimed, startling everyone as smoke billowed from the ground beneath him. It required all of the Kyuubi's chakra that I could muster. I appreciate you giving me the advantage, Yugito, he thought to himself as a massive battle toad with a staff. Blade and shield suddenly stood between the two forces, with Jiraiya and Yugito perched atop it. Jiraiya sighed with relief, nice job Naruto, and peered down into the toad's eyes. Gamaken, nice to see you again, said the Gamma Sennin. Gamaken, looking a little anxious, said, I wish I could say the same, Jiraiya, what am I doing here exactly? Jiraiya said, we need you to fight those snakes while we handle the shinobi. Gamaken understood and nodded, saying, okay, I'll try my best. Leave Orochimaru to me, Shizune, you stick with Tsunade and keep her safe. Naruto and Yugito will handle 4. Eyes over there, Jiraiya said. Shizune started, but Jiraiya, Sama with your chakra. Even in my weakened state I am the best choice to face him right now. Besides, his arms are useless, so I should be fine, Jiraiya said. Naruto exclaimed, here they come, as soon as he noticed the two snakes charging toward them. Naruto, any moment now, Yugito exclaimed. Shinra Tensei, an invisible blast of pure gravity instantly drove the two summoned snakes away from them. Jiraiya leapt quickly in the direction of Orochimaru, who was already stumbling to stop him. As soon as the two Chunin made their way back to solid ground, Kabuto attacked them. As soon as Kabuto approached the two snakes, Gamaken left to deal with them. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, 5 clones charged at him at that very moment. Clones are useless here, Naruto.kun. Do you want to run away? You should know when to call it quits and save yourself, he said, dispatching them with ease. Naruto yelled back, you talk too much, as his clones were being killed. The girl, Kabuto quickly spun around, sensing that the Kumo Nin posed a bigger threat, and he readied himself to avoid the jutsu he had seen previously. He exclaimed, "Reikyu," as a ball of pure lightning struck his chest and blew him back into a nearby tree, shocking him to the core. There was an audible crack and the sound of Kabuto's bloodied body falling to the ground, Shinra Tensai, as the tree gave way under the force of nature. Yugito questioned, "Did we get him?" As Naruto collapsed back onto her side, Kabuto suddenly stood up, appearing to be healing more quickly rather than injured. Staring at the Oto Jonin, Naruto shot back, "Does that answer your question?" "A well-thought-out plan and trick, but nothing more than that. You can't defeat me, Naruto-kun, just like you can't defeat Sasuke-kun. We will always be stronger than you," Kabuto grinned. Quote, "I'm going to kill you, traitor." "Nice and slow," Naruto growled. "Naruto." As she gave him what could be considered a worried look, Yugito thought to herself. Since the battle began, he had not acted like himself. He spoke as though he was genuinely fighting to kill his opponents, and she genuinely thought he would. Kabuto challenged him, "Let's see about that, Naruto-kun," and he produced 2 scrolls. Fuin. Kai, and immediately the scrolls burst into smoke, scattering 27 dead bodies across the floor. Amidst the group of dead bodies, one exclaimed, "Say hello to the dead for me, Naruto-kun, Shakan no Jutsu," and turned to face the 2 Chunin. "There might be a problem here," Yugito growled and retreated a step. "You monster! How dare you desecrate people's bodies like this? You must understand that it is all in the name of science, little girl," Kabuto said, brushing off the remark and stepping back. "Death them," he commanded. With inhuman speed, the army of 27 people charged towards the group, and just as they were about to get within range, Naruto closed his eyes and cast a downward glance at the ground. Yugito gritted her teeth and said, "Damn it, we can't escape," as her arm caught fire once more. Now that the group was only a few feet away, Naruto abruptly raised his palms. With enough force to send dust skyward, the group was blown back at Kabuto's feet, and 2 simple words were whispered. "Shinra Tensai." Yugito had to grab Naruto when he fell forward a moment later and asked, "Hey idiot, are you alright?" "I'll be alright," he grunted. "I think I overdid it a little with the control there, but I had no choice," he said. "Hey, it's okay, it was careless, but it's okay," she comforted him as she assisted him in getting back up on his feet. "Do you think you can get him to stand still for me?" "I want to try something," she replied. She hesitated and replied, "Yeah, but it won't last very long. This guy seems to know a lot about the human body and could probably find a way around my attack in a matter of seconds." "Do it," he instructed her. She made a hand seal and said, "All right, but whatever you're planning better be good or we're both dead." Rai Bunshin no Jutsu, and 7 lightning clones materialized at her side, advancing alongside her in an instant. "Shadow clones aren't going to work her," Kabuto grinned and set out to eliminate them just as he had Naruto's clones. "Chakra no Mesu," he uttered as blue chakra engulfed his hands. He destroyed the clones with ease, but to his surprise, they generated electricity and severely shocked his nervous system, rendering him immobile. Yugito yelled, "All right, Naruto, you're up," as she leapt aside. Naruto called out to the woman over his shoulder, "Hey Obeken," to catch her attention. "Prepare to settle your bet," he said, his hands forming a recognizable seal. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," he said, gesturing to the motionless Kabuto with a single clone that appeared next to him. The Oto Nin, Bansho Tenin, was taken aback when he felt himself being drawn toward Naruto rather than away from him. "I'm immobile," Kabuto thought fearfully as he got closer. In Naruto's hand, there was a noticeable whiz as if air were spinning. It was actually chakra. All chakra and nothing else. As soon as he was close enough, Naruto launched the tiny, spinning ball of chakra and struck Kabuto square in the middle of the abdomen. The impact hurt him so much that he cried out, but then he was blasted back, spinning wildly. With an incredible burst of force, he crashed into the adjacent boulder, causing it to shatter under the impact. Whispering its name, Rasengan, Naruto stepped back to admire his creation. Tsunade stammered in disbelief. "Why, you did it?" She was shocked to hear that, "You actually managed to master the Rasengan in only 1 week." Yugito grinned broadly and said, "You fused the chakra into it and spun it while you yourself contained it. You did this with a shadow clone." He shot back with a smile of his own. Well, you did say clones are the best way if you want to look left and right at the same time. I think this belongs to me now, he said, turning to face Tsunade as soon as he had confirmed Kabuto was down. With a, "This feels strange," expression, he took the necklace from her and put it on. Tsunade laughed as her body stopped trembling from the blood. "Why don't you actually? Heh heh, I'm still lousy at betting." Shizune stumbled. "Tsunade. Sama. Why, your phobia. The Katsuyu." Sennin stood to her feet and replied, "I know, Shizune." "So you've overcome it, have you?" "Kukakuku, I don't think I care much for facing two of the Sannin today. Maybe next time, Tsunade. Jiraiya." With a, "We're leaving" expression, Orochimaru knelt beside his injured subordinate. Kabuto managed to say, "Yes, Orochimaru. Sama," before the two disappeared beneath the earth. Jiraiya exhaled with relief. "They're gone," as the two snakes vanished in an instant. "And I couldn't win another wager," Tsunade laughed. "Well, you were always a bad gambler, the Gamma," Sennin said, coming up to them. "I appreciate your assistance, Gamaken," he said to the big toad. The battle toad said, "Anytime," and vanished in a cloud of smoke. Jiraiya sighed with exhaustion. "We'll stop in town for tonight and head out for Konoha tomorrow." Tanzaku Town, Fire Country. "An explanation, please, right away," a scowling Naruto demanded. "You said you would explain about this, Uzumaki Kushina, so tell me now," he said, his Rinnegan drilling 2 holes into the 2 Sannin in front of him. "Well, you see," Jiraiya said, turning to face Tsunade, wondering how he would explain this. "You already know that Kushina was your mother. She was a part of the Uzumaki clan, who were the main clan of the Whirlpool country, and her family line in particular was the royal family of the entire country." Tsunade interrupted, deciding it would be better if she gave an explanation. Naruto questioned, not believing it. "What do you mean Uzumaki clan? There's no such thing. I think I would have heard of it if there were one." Jiraiya chose to respond, "That's because the entire country was destroyed and the rest of the clan was wiped out by Kyuubi no Kitsune before it attacked Konoha." Not sure what else to say, Naruto exclaimed, "Kyuubi? Are you telling me that demon killed my entire family?" "Only your mother remained and she died in childbirth the day Kyuubi attacked Konoha," Jiraiya said, nodding in agreement. When Naruto heard that, he asked, "What about my father?" and sat down on the adjacent bed. Giving only half the truth in her response, Jiraiya said, "He died in the fight against the Kyuubi that day." Trying not to lose his cool, Naruto asked, "Why'd I have the Rinnegan? You said my mother had it, so what am I meant to think exactly?" "I think I should probably start from the beginning," Tsunade said. "Many years ago, during an age of turmoil, a single man discovered the energy we know as chakra. I don't know his name, however I do know what he was called. He was called the Rakudo Sennin, and he also wielded the Rinnegan. In fact, he was the first to have it." Naruto, growing irritated at the small tale, exclaimed, "Arrow. Sennin already told me this when I first awakened it, so what?" Tsunade surprised Shizune, Yugito, and Naruto by revealing, the Rakudo Sennin had 2 sons, briefly. "What?" Yugito questioned in shock. She had heard the story many years before and knew every detail. Children were never mentioned. "He had 2 sons, he also chose one of them to be his successor before he died," Tsunade said. "The elder brother was gifted with the sage's eyes and became known as Uchiha Tobi. He was the originator of the Uchiha bloodline and thought peace was best achieved with the use of force," she said. "Sasuke is related to the Rakudo Sennin?" widened Naruto's eyes. "All Uchiha are," Tsunade remarked menacingly. "Identical to the Senju," she said. "You?" a perplexed Yugito inquired. The younger brother was gifted with the sage's marvelous chakra and became known as Senju Naruto. He was my ancestor and the man who created the Senju clan, Sannin, who was blonde, said. Naruto questioned, "Naruto? As in my name?" Tsunade nodded and reiterated what she had said to earlier. Unlike his elder brother, he thought peace could be achieved through never giving up and always looking towards the future. On his deathbed, the Rakudo Sennin chose him as his successor over his brother just before he died. In doing so, Uchiha Tobi attacked his little brother out of jealousy and anger. This sparked the conflict between the Uchiha and Senju clans all the way through to the founding of Konoha. Naruto remarked, "That still doesn't explain why I have the Rinnegan." In an attempt to clarify, Yugito remarked, "He's right. Although I do find it freaky that he has the same name as a son of the Rakudo. Sennin. He's an Uzumaki, not a Senju or Uchiha. That's where it gets complicated. You see, during the clan wars before the shinobi villages were founded, a section of the Senju clan broke off from the main group and wanted to leave in search of a place to call home. They settled on a remote island just off of water country they called Whirlpool Country, Tsunade went on. The leader of the group was a man named Senju Arashi, or Uzumaki Arashi as he later started calling himself, and he founded the Uzumaki clan with the others of the group. The Rinnegan began appearing in their family, and Arashi's family became the royal family of Whirlpool Country. Most of the clan only activated a Rinnegan once every 5 generations, but Arashi's family. A Rinnegan awoke in every generation, and it was always the first child who awoke it that became the heir to the throne. Naruto paused to process everything before responding, "So then, since I'm an only child." Tsunade concluded with a nod, "You are the heir to the throne." "So what now then?" Yugito inquired following a brief pause. With a sigh, Jiraiya got up and said, "It's time for us to return to Konoha so Tsunade can take over as Hokage." Tsunade smirked and said, "When did I say I was going to do that?" "What do you mean, Tsunade? You made a bet with the kid, remember? You lost, so you have to become Hokage," Jiraiya sternly asked as everyone stared at her in confusion. To the surprise of everyone, Tsunade revealed to him, "Actually, I only agreed to return to Konoha. I never agreed to become Hokage." "But if you don't, then who will?" "I sure as hell am not going to take the job," Jiraiya said. Tsunade gave him a smile and said, "I might have an idea." Fire Country. Hokage Tower in Konoha. Since the Tsunade auto attack a month prior, the village had undergone significant change. Anbu Captain Tenzo effectively assumed temporary leadership of the entire shinobi force, with Hitaki Kakashi recovering in a hospital after fighting Uchiha Itachi, who had sneaked into the village. Senju Tsunade was given command back after healing Kakashi, much to the surprise of everyone in Konoha, upon his return. When the elders learned that Tsunade and Jiraiya both spoke with the daimyo personally, they were, to put it mildly, shocked. Essentially working behind their backs, they persuaded the daimyo and the council to appoint Kakashi as the Godem Hokage, claiming he was the most qualified candidate at the time. This brings us to the present circumstance. From behind the Hokage's desk, Kakashi complained, "This is torture," as he looked over the numerous sheets of paper on the table. Gesturing, "Why did I accept this job again?" was his question. His new assistant Shizune responded, "Because Tsunade, Sama and Jiraiya. Sama said you were the best choice," as she brought in an additional stack of documents. The masked Hokage sighed and leaned back, "I'm not sure if I should be flattered that they have so much faith in me or insulted that they both turned it down." Minato. "Sensei, how did you manage to endure this torture?" As his gaze fell upon the enormous volume of documents, he pondered over the question. Naki called, "Come in," and got up, with a, "You're late," greeting. The door opened and his former students came in. "We got lost on life's journey," grinned Naruto in response. After returning to Konoha, the blonde Chunin dressed differently. Although he was still wearing a jumpsuit, it was more black colored than orange, and it fit him much better than the clothes he had been wearing before. Recall his jumpsuit from part 2. When his teammates asked why he was wearing it, he revealed that his previous one was nearly worn out from his most recent mission, surprising them with the sight of it. "Cute, really cute," Kakashi waved to them, sighing. "Will you mind waiting outside for a moment?" "This won't take long," he asked Shizune, turning to face her. After giving a nod, she quickly departed. "I assume you know why you're here," he said, turning back to face the three. Sakura raised her hand, "Not really, sensei," with a slightly nervous expression. "As you know, I am the Godem Hokage. As such, I am no longer your sensei, so the team is being changed around a bit," Kakashi said with a sigh. Sakura inquired, feeling her anxiety rising, "Are we getting another Jonin sensei?" "Not quite," Kakashi shook his head. He went on to say, "Between the attack last month and the need for Jonin to be stationed either here or at the border, I simply don't have anyone to spare right now." Naruto questioned, "So what then?" Knock. Kakashi called, "Come in," and the door opened. A moment later, Yugito arrived, grabbing everyone's attention. Sakura gave her a nervous glance while she wondered aloud what Akumo Nin was doing in Konoha. Sasuke gave her an inquisitive, if slightly irritated, look. On the other hand, Naruto's eyes were narrowed. and she thought she briefly saw his Rinnegan activate. Ni Yugito, she said as her name. She said politely, "You wanted to see me, Hokage. Sama?" "Yes, I did," Kakashi replied, grinning broadly. "I have been told by Jiraiya Sama that you are the ambassador from Kumo, correct?" he inquired. Ignoring the two genins' looks in the room, Yugito nodded and said, "That is correct. Because you are a shinobi, a messenger from the Raikage requested that you be part of a joint village team," Kakashi said. "With Suna now an ally again, they have done the same with a young girl called Temari. I've assigned her to one of the other genin teams," he said. The Kumo Chunin inquired, "Where am I being assigned to?" Team Kakashi, led by Uzumaki Naruto, the Hokage unexpectedly announced to the party. Though Sasuke could still feel a dull ache in the back of his neck, his fists immediately clenched and his face remained neutral. Sakura started, But Kakashi, Sensei, Naruto, Baka is. She said, "A Konoha Chunin and is your superior Sakura," but Kakashi interrupted. "Like I said, I have no one else to spare, and besides Shikamaru is doing the same with Temari since Asuma is on the front lines right now," he said. Yugito noticed that Naruto had become unusually quiet and questioned, "Who has command?" "Naruto and I both have the same rank." "Since it is a Konoha team, Naruto has tactical command, but you are second in command. Like I said, Shikamaru is doing the same with Temari. They were both promoted to Chunin, but he has tactical command," Kakashi clarified. "If there are no questions, I have a mission for you," he sighed after a brief period of silence. Speaking for the first time since Yugito entered the room, Naruto inquired, "What is it?" "It's an A-rank escort mission to Snow Country," Kakashi unexpectedly told the four. He handed them a sheet of paper and what looked to be a photo, saying, "We're spread pretty thin, so I'm assigning you to take care of this. Her name is Fujikaze Yukie. She's an actress and a good one. She plays the lead character in the Princess Gale movies. You might want to see it before taking the mission." Naruto responded, "We'll get right on that." His voice seemed to be free of the childishness from when Kakashi last saw him, asking, "Is there anything else?" With a simple shake of his head, the Hokage said, "That's everything, good luck," and dismissed. "You've changed, Naruto," Kakashi said as the four ninjas bowed and left the room. Dobi. "Just to get things straight, I don't care what Kakashi says, you are not the Tei." Sasuke turned to Naruto as soon as he was outside. He was slammed against the wall by Naruto as he charged at him, grabbing his collar. "I don't care, Teme. You don't like me and I sure as hell don't like you, but while we're on this mission you will do everything I say. If you don't follow my orders I will consider you a traitor, and believe me when I say you don't want that." Sakura angrily said, "Naruto, you can't talk to Sasuke-kun like the..." Naruto shot back, "Sakura, shut up. You're annoying," which made her eyes widen because she remembered hearing those exact same words from someone else. With a simple, "Follow my orders and we won't have a problem. It's as simple as that." Naruto turned back to face Sasuke and released his hold, allowing Sasuke to regain his balance. Sasuke grunted, "HN," but said nothing more. "Let's go see this movie that Sensei was talking about. At the very least, we'll know what this actress looks like," Naruto said as he turned to walk away. Sakura asked, pointing to the Kumo nin who was strolling alongside them, "What about her?" "You know, I'm Yugito," she irritatedly said. "I know what she can do because we worked together on my last mission," Naruto remarked, not turning to face Yugito as he made his way forward. Sakura muttered, "I don't like this," and quickly followed. As the four left the theater, Yugito remarked, "That was the best film I've ever seen." A grin as big as a cat appeared on her face, reading, "A brave and strong heroine faces impossible odds as evil tries to stop her from continuing her glorious quest." Before realizing what she was saying, Sakura turned to face Sasuke. "You were watching her? I preferred to keep my eyes on that handsome Michi who played Sukeikiro. I wish I could just watch him all day long." Sakura said. Trying to hide her disappointment, she said, "Of course he doesn't compare to you, Sasuke-kun. Pinky, you really need to sort out your priorities," Yugito remarked, casting her a sidelong glance. Sakura glared back at her, saying, "Shut it, Cloud. Girl. Make me." Yugito smiled back, her eyes briefly turning purple. "Okay. Calm down you two," Naruto interrupted, preventing them from going any farther. Then the most bizarre thing occurred. Well, a couple of them did. The first was a horse. riding person who appeared to be a close relative of the woman they were tasked with protecting. She was pursued by about 20 samurai who appeared to be riding horses through the streets. Sakura stammered, Was that Princess Gale who just rose by? Yugito pointed down the street that the woman and the samurai had rode down, asking, No, that was the actress that plays her. She's being chased, right? After Naruto uttered the words, Yeah, she is. Let's go. The four climbed onto roofs to pursue them. They disable them. Don't kill them unless you actually consider them a threat. As they swiftly caught up to the horses galloping through the village. I got it, simultaneously exclaiming Sakura and Yugito, while Sasuke simply gave a HN. When the horses arrived at a wide area, the riders were taken aback when the team suddenly dropped in front of them. Surprised, the lone rider without a mask exclaimed, Who are you? Naruto waved back, saying, We're the good guys, and then he and the rest of the team shot forward. Just to give you an idea, it didn't take long to put the group of samurai under control. What are you doing? Inquired the leader, who was restrained. We're supposed to protect Fujikaze Yukie. You know the woman you were chasing just a second ago. Since you were chasing her, that makes you the bad guys, replied Naruto. Yukie, but we're with the film crew. I'm her manager. She ran away from the shoot, so we went after her. My name is Asama Sandayu, said the leader. Naruto questioned over his shoulder, Sasuke? He's not lying, the Uchiha shot back, activating his Sharingan. That's right, Naruto replied, releasing the samurai's bonds with a click of his fingers. How about you explain to us exactly what is going on, he said. Sandayu inquired, Heir, what about Yukie? With a knowing look at Yugito, who nodded in agreement, Naruto remarked, She's probably long gone from here by now, we'll find her later. Sandayu said, Of course, this way, gesturing across the street. The next Princess Gale movie is the first one we're shooting abroad, and I don't need to tell you all about our leading actress, the assistant director murmured. Sandayu said, I am sorry, realizing why she had fled. I have to say these ninja you hired, Sandayu, are really something else. They took down those stuntmen. Turned bodyguards we hired like they were nothing, and those are some pretty big guys, said Makino, the director. Thanks. I think, Yugito replied, not sure if that was a compliment or a jab. Anyway, we're planning on filming the movie's big climatic ending in Snow Country, so that's why we're going there. Sandayu here recommended it since according to him the rainbow glacier in Snow Country is said to turn into 7 different colors during the spring, said the assistant director. That's just a myth, Yugito dismissed with a shake of her head. There is no spring in Snow Country. The entire place is locked in a permanent winter, she said. Naruto inquired, why does Yukie keep running away? Believing he was missing something important. We don't know. She just started when she found out we were going to Snow Country, Makino said. After a brief period of silence, Naruto turned to his group and said, Yugito, let's go get her. The sooner we find her, the sooner we can finish this mission. According to the Kumo Nin, she's in a bar on the other side of town. How do you know? Sakura questioned, giving her a perplexed expression. With a hint of annoyance, Yugito said, I'm a sensory type. I can sense specific chakra signatures over large distances. Naruto said, let's go then, and they departed. Tanzaku Town, Fire Country. Are you sure this is the place? As the team arrived, Sandayu followed closely behind, and Naruto inquired. With a nod, Yugito said, she's definitely inside. All right, I'll enter first and try to speak with her. He said to her, if that doesn't work out, I'll just let you handle it, Yugito, and she nodded in agreement. Good luck, Yugito wished the establishment luck as he walked in. He cautiously walked up to Yukie after spotting her seated at the dimly lit counter. He stepped in front of the actress and said, Excuse me, as he almost went past a man whose hat obscured his eyes. Fujikaze Yukie, I presume? Naruto asked the actress seated at the bar as the man continued to walk. With a sidelong glance at him, she questioned, Who wants to know? Uzumaki Naruto, was the Chunin's simple response. Attempting to get a rise out of him, she told him, You're a little too young for me, kid. Old enough to kill, old enough to screw around. Didn't work. He moved his gaze down to her neck, where he noticed something. Stop staring at me, pervert, she yelled. But Naruto just brushed it off, saying, That necklace you have. The mention of it made her freeze. What is this feeling? Though it's different, it feels similar to the sensation I had from Shodem's necklace. Yukie said, "It's nothing," as she turned to leave. Shaking it off, Naruto asked, "Who are you really?" After giving him a brief glance, she said, "I'm nothing more than a lie. All you have are words on paper that should be alive. How about you? Really, who are you?" In all honesty, he replied, I don't know anymore. Or perhaps I never did. Then you should just go home, Yukie said with a melancholic chuckle. Naruto said, "You're right," and pivoted back in the direction of the door. "You're broken. All you are is a shell for a lie," he remarked, walking past her in the direction of the door. She thought of the man who had saved her 10 years ago and shuddered a little as he passed her. That boy. He's just like him, she thought to herself. "Well, how did it go?" After he was outside, Sakura inquired. "Not as good as I had hoped for," he said. Yugito get it, and the Kumo nin nodded. A moment later, she and the others walked into the bar and she said, "We should make this fast." Whispering, "Raikyu." Yugito struck the actress with a tiny lightning bolt, causing her to instantly freeze and lose consciousness. "I only used enough chakra to disable her. There's no permanent damage of any kind." "Good. Sasuke helped me with her," Naruto said, letting go of her arm and giving the other arm to the Uchiha, who accepted it with reluctance. Naruto asked, "Where to now?" as he turned to face the manager. "Snow Country." Unidentified area. The Yuki.Nin leader knelt down and said, "She has the hex crystal. There is question that she is Kazuhana Koyuki, your niece." With only a interesting chuckle, the Snow Daimyo said. The leader added, "She's not alone, though. My spy says Team Kakashi is watching over her." "Kakashi? Like with the Kakashi Hitaki?" the group's female member questioned while grinning a little. The leader nodded and said, "It looks he personally trained her escort, though he does not appear to be a member of the team." Apparently he turned into the Hokage, the final man pondered. "The team is very dangerous on its own, even without Kakashi," the leader went on. "The leader of the group is Uzumaki Naruto, the holder of Rinnegan." The daimyo remarked, "Uzumaki? That's a name I haven't heard in a while. I thought they all perished at the fall of the Whirlpool country. He's probably that woman's brat," he thought. "So, the Whirlpool Prince, huh? Sounds enjoyable," with a smile on her face, the woman said. Uchiha Sasuke, the heir apparent to the Uchiha clan, is one of his teammates, and he is no laughing matter. Then there's the granddaughter of the Raikage, who seems to be serving as an envoy to Konoha at the moment, the leader declared emphatically. "In the end, it will be a clash of fate," the Snow Daimyo chuckled at that. Snow Country. Ocean, ship film. "I know this is a mission in Hokage. Sama picked us for the job, but I really can't stand that woman," Yugito grumbled. "She may be a good actress, but her people skills could use some work." "Yugato, it's not that bad, it could always be worse," Naruto said, shrugging and leaning back against the ship's rail. "Our mission is to protect her. We have to do it even if we don't like it." "I don't think guarding a pampered actress will be that difficult," Boardley said as he peered over the railing at the sea. "We thought the same about that old drunk Tazuna on our mission to Wave Country," Naruto said, shaking his head. "As you recall, Momochi Zabuza, the demon of the mist, and his apprentice were the ones we had to battle." "That was somewhat different," Sasuke muttered. Naruto said, "Maybe, but I don't think that Sandayugai is telling us everything," as he turned to watch as everyone prepared to begin filming. "Everyone be on your guard just in case. Something is definitely wrong here," he uttered, recalling the sensation he had from the actress' necklace. "Icebergs in the Snow Country. What the hell is this?" When Yugito saw the enormous mass of ice and snow that had formed a floating island in the middle of the sea, he inquired. Naruto merely remarked, "That is an iceberg. To all of you. This is where we're filming the next scene. Prepare yourself." The film crew heard the assistant director yell at them. "All right, scene 36. Slice 22. It took them only a moment to begin shooting. But it was cut short when the mountain where the antagonist was hiding behind erupted, sending ice hurtling down the side and creating a sizable hole in the side of it. "Air. Is that a part of the movie?" Sakura questioned tremblingly. Naruto responded, "I don't think so," before leaping in front of Yukie and the film crew. "Rinnegan," he said as his dujutsu began to work. Sakura remained in the background as Yugito and Sasuke approached him from either side, flanking Yukie. The assistant director exclaimed, "Hey, what are you all doing?" at them. Everyone get back to the ship, Naruto bellowed behind him. Looks like you're as good as they say, Uzumaki Naruto. A lone figure arose from the edge of the cliff. Who the hell are you? With narrowed eyes, Naruto questioned him. The Yuki Nin grinned and said, Roga Nader, it's a pleasure to meet you, Prince of Whirlpool. Prince? Sakura inquired, unable to comprehend. Naruto said, I'll explain later, over his shoulder, keeping his gaze fixed on the man. Naruto on the left. When Yugito yelled, Naruto turned to see another Yuki Nin. This time a girl, standing atop the adjacent pillar of ice. The girl grinned and said, Hello Princess Koyuki, I do hope you're still carrying around the Hex Crystal. The announcement startled the whole group, and they all glanced at Fujikaze Yukie's motionless form. What does that mean? Yugito posed an unclear question. It doesn't matter now. Focus on the mission, Naruto uttered to command everyone's attention. Sasuke remarked, one more on the right, as he noticed a male Yuki Nin appear from the ground further down the mountainside. Impressive Uchiha, but it's still not good enough, the newcomer stated emphatically. Yugito, you take the guy on the right. Sasuke, take the girl, and Sakura, you cover Yukie or whoever she is, Naruto instructed. Nader yelled, Fubuki, Mizore, you take care of the princess while I deal with him, and a moment later Fubuki followed suit. Raikyu. As she leapt out of the group and hurled the lightning ball at Mizore, who looked like she was riding a snowboard, Yugito let out a cry. Just as the ball of lightning appeared to hit an invisible wall just before impact and was nullified, the Yuki Nin exclaimed, Out of my way, little girl. That is. As Yugito ducked to the side to evade the approaching attack, she thought. Mizore turned to face her again and slid right past her, saying, I've never heard of chakra armor being this advanced, but that's definitely it. Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu. As he launched 7 tiny, flaming fireballs towards the pink-haired Yuki. Nin. Sasuke let out a cry. Fubuki avoided the majority of them, but the ones that did seemed to splash along an unseen barrier. What is that? Is that the best you've got? With a laugh, Fubuki turned her back on him and swiftly sealed multiple hands. She whispered, Hyoro no Jutsu, as she landed again. I'm going to freeze your balls off, kid, Sasuke said as the ground in front of her grew larger and more like ice. With a grimace, Sasuke leapt away, only to have his fall caught by the ice. Abruptly, his body transformed into a glowing torch with an explosive tag attached. Ice fragments scattered over the battlefield as the tag exploded. Fubuki turned to face Sasuke as he abruptly appeared from below her, but her eyes widened at the sight of his attack. The Uchiha cried out, Chidori, as he used the technique, but she had to stop it because of that dreadful barrier. I fractured her armor, but nothing short of another Chidori is going to be enough to break through it, she said as she knocked him out and took to the skies on a pair of robotic wings. Shinra Tensai, a massive blast of concentrated gravity that struck suddenly caused the mountain's summit to explode. Smirking, Nader landed on the edge of the main slope. Perched atop a nearby snow pillar, Naruto declared, This guy is as strong as Kabuto, maybe stronger. If you keep that up you're going to bring the whole mountain down on us, you know. The leader of Yuki grinned knowingly. Hey guys. They have armor made of chakras. As long as they're wearing those things, ninjutsu and genjutsu are useless against them. The rest of the team was called out by Yugito. We know. As Nader sealed his palm in a wave, Naruto yelled back. With a sly smile, the Yuki leader exclaimed, Hyuden. Haryu Moko. Suddenly, a half-tiger, half-dragon formed from the accumulated ice, bringing the mountainside to life. Shinra Tensai, Naruto muttered, shattering the ice beasts with their barrels. Damn this guy, there's no openings at all, he said, casting a glance up at the position where the Yuki leader stood grinning. Nader spoke with confidence, saying, Give up kid, you can't beat me. Naruto gave him a gentle wave in return and uttered 2 short words in a whisper. Nader said, Bansho Tenin, and was startled to feel his body being drawn in the direction of Naruto, who had already cocked his other fist back. You're a bastard. He yelled, You know that, as he delivered the devastating blow to the Yuki leader's face. Nader snarled, That hurt, and rose from the snow once more. You're going to pay for that, Your Majesty. Had things been different, the former Naruto would have probably continued fighting until one of them collapsed. Even though Naruto was still feeling the same, He knew that his team was in a dangerous situation and that it was only a matter of time until they all failed. He quickly decided while keeping his gaze fixed on the Yuki leader. Hiroshima. Make use of all of your explosive tags. Cover the whole iceberg. Drain it. To the surprise of everyone, even the gathered Yuki nins, Naruto let out a shout over his shoulder. That was met with a nervous nod from Sakura. All right. Are you crazy? You will also perish. Nader scoffed. With a smile, Naruto said, let's see about that bastard. Mizor. Put an end to the girl, Nader yelled at his colleague. Mizor slid past Yugito, nodding at the command. The Kumo Chunin growled, oh no you don't, and bolted after him. As he got closer, Sakura's eyes grew wide, oh no. But Yugito leapt down between them just before he got to her, her arm now covered in what appeared to be flames. She yelled, Kaizuki, as she moved to cut the Yuki nin and seemed to run into a barrier. I can't hold him forever, damn it, Pinky, hurry up. Yugito shouted over her back. Sakura gave a nod and lifted her cloak, revealing a plethora of kunai with bags fastened. One by one, she began tossing them up towards the mountain, one by one, until they were all gone. Then she pulled out a kunai marked, explosive, and hurled it towards the large assortment of bags. Sakura Fubuki no Jutsu, enjoy. The tag exploded with a loud explosion sounding after a stunning display of light. The explosion of the bag's contents soon afterward increased the blast by a factor of 10. The pressure and heat from the blast caused the ice to splinter and crack, causing the entire iceberg to tremble. Every get back to the ship, shouting, Naruto leapt clear of Nader. The remainder of Team Kakashi broke away from their own battles and rushed in the direction of the ship they had arrived on, where the film crew had already made their escape. They were too busy trying to get away from the breaking iceberg for Team Snow to catch up to them in time. As the entire iceberg broke apart and its remnants drifted on the ocean's surface, Team Kakashi and the film crew were back on board. Team Snow watched them go, but the ship had already begun to sail away from the area. I think this mission just got a lot harder, Naruto let out a sigh. Snow Country. Ocean, ship film on board the movie ship, Yukie. Koyuki slept in a dark room. Standing by the window, Naruto continued to stare at her and the necklace she was wearing, which was now resting on the table next to the bed. He didn't feel warm from Shodem's necklace. Instead, he felt cold and refreshed. Out of 6, 2. Hearing the voice, Naruto looked around, but he and Koyuki were the only people he saw. Moon, tail, split, sage, necklace. Naruto reasoned that Kyuubi wasn't there because he didn't sense any demonic presence. Child of Prophecy. Legacy. Senju. Uchiha. What in the world are you discussing? I don't understand you, thought Naruto, but he received no response. Before making a hand seal and muttering some pointed remarks, Naruto turned to face the necklace and studied it for a good 10 more seconds. A moment later, one shadow clone entered the space and changed into an identical replica of the necklace. He swapped the two a moment later, putting Koyuki's necklace in his pocket. Hi Princess Koyuki, I hope you're still carrying the hex crystal around with you. Why is this crystal so damn important? As Naruto recalled the Yuki nin uttering those words, he asked himself in reflection. A knock sounded, and then the door swung open just enough for Sandayu to peer inside. The ship pulled into dock a moment ago. Everyone else is waiting in the conference room, he said quietly. Yeah, you have some explaining to do, Naruto said, nodding. Sandayu gave a nod, and together they made their way to the conference room, being careful to shut the door behind them. Sakura questioned, though it sounded more like a demand, Naruto. What did that snow guy mean when he called out, Prince? Why would he call you that? Why do you think Pinky? It's because he's the heir to the Whirlpool country's throne and the only child of Uzumaki Kushina. Yugito shot her an irritated look. It's true, sighed Naruto. Why didn't you tell us? Sakura inquired, looking surprised and somewhat offended. Would you have believed me? I was the dead last of our class Sakura. Even if I'd known about it back then no one would have believed me. Besides I only found out recently so it really doesn't matter at the moment, replied Naruto. With narrowed eyes, Sasuke watched him and said nothing. Lying against the wall near the window, Yugito said, what I want to know is what's up with Yukie, if that's really her name. This surprised Sakura and Sasuke. Sandayu.san. Explanation, a good one, now, Naruto said in a hardened tone. After calming down, The manager sighed and said, "Okay. Fujikaze Yukie is only an alias, you're actually guarding Princess Kazuhana Koyuki, the rightful heir to Snow Country's throne," he said, taking a deep breath before continuing. Naruto yelled, "I'm sorry, what? And when the hell were you going to tell us this?" The manager stumbled, I didn't think they would come after her so soon." Unable to look them in the eye, Sandayu said, "I know her because I used to live in Snow Country." "She's just like Naruto," Yugito said, glancing over at Naruto. "I served the princess's father, the former daimyo of Snow Country, Sosetsu Sama. Then 10 years ago Sosetsu Sama's younger brother Dodo hired a group of Yuki nins and started a coup d'état. The Kazuhana palace was burned to the ground and Sosetsu Sama was killed. I thought the same fate befell the princess, but she was saved by Hitaki Kakashi," Sandayu recalled. Sakura questioned, "Kakashi Sensei saved her?" Sandayu replied, "The day I discovered she was alive I was practically beside myself with joy. She was alive after all those years. We all thought she had perished with her father." Someone said, "I should have died that day." Coming from the door, Yukie, or Koyuki, was there, leaning against the archway. "I am alive. But whatever tears I had left all dried up that day. That's how I became the manager of Fujikaze Yukie," Sandayu said, wiping the tears from his eyes. "I have waited for the chance to bring the princess back to Snow Country." The assistant at his side questioned, "So you've just been using us all this time?" Standing before the Snow Princess, Sandayu apologized profusely for tricking everyone, but he explained that it was done for the benefit of the people of Snow Country. "Please, princess, I beg of you, confront Dodo and assume your place as the leader of our home," he said, falling to his hands and knees. "Not a chance. I refuse to throw away my life in some fool's dream," Koyuki said, staring at him impassively. Sandayu started, But you highness." The princess glared, "You can forget it. I don't care. No matter what happens, you can never get rid of Dodo." Surprised his team, Naruto growled angrily at her, "Why don't you shut your mouth? This man is on his knees, begging whatever self-respect you have left in hopes of accomplishing his greatest dream. Insult him like that again and, mission or not, woman or not, I will beat you into the ground." After that, the room was dead silent, tensions rising as the two swallowed their own sneers. Koyuki, who never took her eyes off the blonde boy, asked, "And just who are you to tell me what to do?" As his Rinnegan activated and pressure built up in the air, Naruto responded, "I can be your best friend or your worst enemy. It's not like you have a choice. With this Dodo after you now, your only hope is to keep moving." After giving it some thought, he said, "Like it or not, we're your only hope, deal with it." Koyuki was at a loss for words in response. Then came Yugito, "Normally on a mission like this we'd return to the village, but with Dodo after us we'd be slaughtered before we escaped. Let's just handle them here. There's nothing we can't handle." Sasuke crossed his arms and gave a grunt. To which Sakura retorted, "Sasuke-kun is right, we won the last fight." Reluctantly nodded, "No we didn't. They ambushed us. We barely escaped without any serious wounds. They'll be prepared next time. But then again so will we." With his thoughts focused neither on the sea nor the vessel, Uchiha Sasuke strolled the whole length of it. Rather, it was on his group, his adopted family. He loved them and the relationships they shared, but something was lacking. His goal was something significant. "How come you're still so frail? Is it that there isn't enough hatred in you?" Itachi Uchiha, the man who killed his entire clan, the man who killed everyone he loved, and the man who had once been his brother. Ever since their encounter a month ago, Sasuke had been thinking about Itachi, believing that he had come back to finish him off the way he had the other members of the Uchiha clan. Rather than acknowledging Sasuke's existence, he returned solely to apprehend his fellow teammate, Naruto. It was absurd. It contradicted all that he believed in. He detested it. Itachi didn't even bother to take Sasuke seriously. His target was the Dobi. He didn't initially give the orange-clad idiot much thought, but then there were the Chunin exams. It was unnatural progress, between now and when they were in the academy. He initially believed that the Rinnegan was the source of his power, but that explanation failed to take into consideration their mission to Wave Country. The Dobi, still conscious, had defeated the guy who had defeated him. How could he have defeated his opponent and survived at that point without the Rinnegan? Why had Itachi shown interest in him in the first place? Who was Uzumaki Naruto exactly? Based on their earlier conversation, Naruto was the prince of the country of whirlpools. It was weird. He'd never heard of it before, especially in light of the blonde's ancestry. Since Naruto owned a Rinnegan, his clan must have possessed one as well, right? Someone would have discovered if there was a clan of Rinnegan users, surely? Why hadn't he heard anything about this clan, if there was one? Sasuke was full of questions, but he was unable to find the answers. Not to mention Yugito, who had never been particularly interested in emotions of any kind and had always preferred to maintain his aloof exterior. He'd always assumed Kunoichi were supposed to be like this, and the Kumo ambassador seemed to embody it. She could defend herself since she was strong and didn't need to be protected. She would become a formidable opponent in due course, especially since she was the current Raikage's granddaughter. Despite his frustration, he was unable to replicate any of her jutsus using his Sharingan for some reason. Dobi, I'll uncover your mysteries. Sasuke, utterly unaware of the cold, stared out at the sea, thinking, yours and that girl's too. As the ship docked and people started to disembark, Sakura thought about how interesting it was that things had changed since their academy days. Everything was normal back at the academy, and she knew where it all fit. Sasuke was the cool genius who consistently prevailed, while Naruto was the last person to approach her and she consistently accepted. Being the most popular girl in school, she aspired to know Sasuke more deeply. When she joined Team 7, everything changed. She learned a very valuable lesson from Kakashi. Always look beneath the surface. Put differently, never accept anything at face value. Kakashi had worn Sasuke down like a worn-out carpet, while Naruto had not only perfected the art of making clones, but also succeeded in solidifying them. Whereas Kakashi severely beat Sasuke, Naruto devised a plan in the middle of the test and, despite its futility, succeeded in taking the scarecrow, like man, by surprise. The trip to Wave Country came next. Sasuke had taken down 2 Chunin Nukenans with such ease that she would never forget it. Naruto's vow and the expression on his face were both amazing and terrifying at the same time. The Demon of the Mist, Momochi Zabuza, then launched an attack on them. Though that was only because he had to defend his students while fighting, he was able to catch Kakashi off guard. When they were about to flee in terror, Naruto did something she had never seen him do before. Zabuza had teased them and terrified them beyond belief. He persisted, refused to back down, and didn't run. He refused to back down and devised a plan that he and Sasuke successfully carried out. Zabuza was taken aback by the plan, which also allowed Kakashi to escape his confines and eventually defeat him. It was the first time she had truly realized that Sasuke wasn't as powerful as other people and that Naruto wasn't what he seemed to be in the academy. When Zabuza returned with his apprentice, it almost happened again. While Naruto not only defeated the masked ninja but also appeared to be uninjured, she had believed that Sasuke had been killed. Instead, he had been rendered nearly lifeless. Since Naruto wasn't too hurt, she had assumed Sasuke had won the battle, but she realized otherwise when Sasuke asked her if Naruto had defeated the masked ninja. Once again, Naruto defied every impression she had of him after they got home and participated in the Chunin exams. When Sasuke ran out of chakra and energy, Naruto just seemed to go on forever. He defeated opponent after opponent. Then, during the finals, she discovered that he was descended from the Rakudo Sennin, and not just any bloodline either. If she was being completely honest with herself, she believed that she was the only unknown member of the team since the tournament had been over for months. Then Yugito was there. She was disliked by Sakura, who thought the blonde girl was a hybrid of Temari and Ino. She was obnoxious, conceited, and certain that the girl desired her Sasuke-kun. If not, then why did she join Team Kakashi? It couldn't possibly be related to Naruto. Sure, he had made significant progress, but he was still a moron. It wouldn't matter. Sasuke-kun would be exclusively hers. In one manner or another, mountain range in snow country. Using the small convoy of vehicles they had brought with them, everyone had disembarked from the ship and continued their journey on land. The convoy used a narrow tunnel that had previously been used by the railway and by the natives, and it took them several hours to arrive at the other side of the mountain. But when they paused to rest, things got convoluted once more. The assistant hurriedly approached Makino after jumping out of his truck. He called out, "Mr. Makino," as he got closer. Makino inquired, "What is it?" With a panicked reply, the assistant said, "Yukie has disappeared again." Makino cried out, What? Naruto said, glancing over at Yugito. Go find her, Yugito said as he turned to leave. As Koyuki sprinted through the icy forest, she thought to herself, no way. I am not going back there. She was suddenly falling and rolling across the ground when she finally stopped at the base of a hill, asking herself, why? Why is this happening? Why do you flee? The voice caused Koyuki's eyes to widen slightly, but she remained motionless. Senju, the prophecy child. Are you done? Koyuki asked as she glanced up and noticed Yugito standing nearby. The princess was pulled to her feet by the Kumo Chunin, who said, come on, everyone's waiting. Koyuki started, how did you? Just as Yugito abruptly holstered the woman onto her back. Yugito said, I'm a sensory type. I had you picked out before you even ran away again. As she walked away, the woman holding onto her back. I can still track you even if you run as far as you like, the blonde said. Koyuki said nothing more as they got closer to the tunnel's entrance. As Yugito slowed to walking speed, she said, why do you run away from your fate? It can't be just self-preservation. It's got to be something more than that. She changed the topic and said, you know, you and Naruto are similar in a lot of ways, when she didn't respond. Yeah right. I'm nothing like your boyfriend, I'm not insane, Koyuki snorted. Yugito grumbled, he's not my boyfriend and yes you are insane. You're insane for making everyone worry. You're insane because you're afraid. I'm not scared. Koyuki let out a growl. Yugito spoke over her shoulder. I heard about your father. He was a great man who followed his dreams. What does that say about you? Koyuki sneered. I will not allow you to lecture me. Yugito smiled and said, then why don't you stop me? Note. I know some of you have seen the new Star Trek movie, so you may recognize this line from there. It just seemed right, so I included it. Instead of answering, Koyuki gave the smaller girl a glare and dropped off her back. You can never understand. Every ounce of happiness I've ever had was taken from me because of this country. I hate it. I didn't want to come back here. I do not fear it. I loathe its very existence. Dodo should have finished the job back then instead of making me suffer like this, the Snow Princess yelled. Yugito was just staring at her. I may not be able to understand you but Naruto does. You're everything he's not and yet you're just the same as him. You're standing in someone else's shadow looking for a way to stand on your own. I've seen the way he looks at you, like he's looking into a mirror. He sees you as a reflection of himself. What he could be if he chooses to. I can't stand the sight of you. With a simple, I don't care, Koyuki said. That caused Yugito to turn away, saying, okay, stay a heartless monster forever. See if I care. She took up the princess without saying anything more, and silently began carrying her once more. Mountain tunnel in snow country. The frozen railroad tracks at their feet started to thaw until they were once again usable, and with that came the abrupt sound of a horn echoing through the tunnel. At the scene, Yugito turned to face the source of the sound, but all he saw was light. It's a train, Koyuki uttered, perplexed. Since she was a small child, she had not seen one. The only ones in use were in snow country, and after Dodo gained power, they had frozen over. Yugito gave her a startled glance and said, you have got to be kidding me. Once more, the horn sounded as a massive steam-driven train emerged, speeding along the tracks. We should get out of here. Koyuki let out a startled cry. I hear you. Yugito shouted as she turned and fled in the other direction. The train was right behind her as she ran, carrying Koyuki on her back. Chakra was used to pump energy into her feet, causing her muscles to twitch each time her feet made contact with the ground. But in spite of her best efforts, the train gradually caught up to them, and that's when they realized there was still hope. As they leapt out of the tunnel and rolled across the snow-covered terrain, Yugito continued to move without stopping. As the train screamed past, it slowed to a stop along the cliff. Koyuki, trying to clear her head of the dizziness, saw that the convoy had vanished. But her uncle Dodo, the one who gave the order for her father's execution, was standing atop the train's platform. She was at a loss for words. It's been a while. Koyuki, the snow daimyo, grinned and spoke into the microphone he was holding. For that one instant, Koyuki was overcome with fear. Dodo. Come on, it's been 10 years. Don't be shy. Let's take a peek at that face, Dodo uttered while sporting the same obscene grin. Dodo squinted as Yugito got up in front of the princess and said, hey, pedophile. You bastard, it's illegal to make out with your niece. Meanwhile, little girl, Mind your place, Dodo mocked her. She growled, her eyes flashing purple. Make me, she said. A number of logs unexpectedly crashed into the side of the train before Dodo could respond to her challenge. Glancing up, they saw Sandayu surrounded by a horde of samurai, prepared to finally put an end to Dodo. That's right, guys. We have Princess Koyuki here to keep an eye on us. We can win if she is by our side. The samurai applauded when Sandayu called out. Sandayu. You idiot, what are you doing? Koyuki inquired hardly audibly above a murmur. Listen to me, Dodo. We've been waiting a long time for this moment of reckoning. This is Osama Sandayu and 50 faithful warriors coming to exact revenge on our dear ruler Sosetsu. Sama. Dodo, you're gonna die here. Raising his weapon into the air, Sandayu shouted. Angered, Dodo remarked, I thought you'd destroyed the last of the insurgents. Nader bowed his head pityingly and said, I apologize. We will take care of the ones we seem to have missed right now. Dodo simply looked at the group and sneered, saying, it doesn't matter. Wipe them out, these men, who are capable of nothing but total destruction. Attack. With their weapons raised, the group bolted down the hill when Sandayu let out a cry. Nevertheless, the train's side opened to reveal dozens of tubes running the length of the carriage, with an anonymous Yuki Nin in charge of the controls. As he rotated the gears, dozens of kunai appeared out of the tubes, forming a wall of flying kunai. The samurai's eyes widened at the oncoming swarm of death, and they stopped cold. Shinra Tensai, the ground gave way, and the kunai were flung sideways like playthings in an instant. With his arm extended towards the train, Naruto stood beside Sandayu, his eyes glowing a dull gray. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu. A massive fireball that Sasuke released from his side collided with the train's side, causing a section of it to burst into flames. As the train shook from the impact, Dodo gripped the rail and yelled, Get us out of here. He let out a bark, and the train resumed its motion. Sakura set off 2 of her explosive notes at that precise moment, which was on the bridge a little further down the track. The train's rear ended fell away as the bridge beneath it was engulfed in 2 tiny suns. But as it broke free of the damaged sections, the train's front end continued to move, allowing it to escape. Just as Sasuke and the samurai prepared to pursue them, Naruto yelled, Hold it. They want us to pursue them. If we confront them, it will be at our convenience, not theirs. Sasuke appeared as though he would argue for a while before nodding and realizing the reasoning behind it. Although he disliked waiting, he did realize that it was preferable to take advantage of any advantages one may have. With a motherly tone, Koyuki approached Sandayu and exclaimed, You stubborn fool. How could you have thought that? With that little stunt of yours, you could have killed everyone, including yourself. But princess. Sandayu started. Before he could finish, Koyuki said, But nothing, a leader should put the needs of the people ahead of their own feelings and act morally. You just pulled off an incredibly self-centered stunt. When Naruto said, Calm down, princess, she took a breath. Sandayu nodded his head, Thank you, Naruto-kun. Don't. I happen to agree with her, Sandayu said, retreating a step. What you did was reckless even by my standards. Don't let your personal feelings cloud your judgment like that again. How ironic that comment is. With a bow of shame, Sandayu said, I'm sorry, knowing it was true. Those who stray from the path of justice have no courage, but under the wing of a strong leader cowardice cannot survive, Naruto said to him and Koyuki. After giving him a brief glance, the princess gripped the necklace and said, Maybe. Sakura muttered, That was. At her side, Sasuke nodded and said, The Shodai Hokage. Before Naruto could say, Let's get out of here. We're no good in the open like this, a big blimp flew up over the mountain. Mizore fired his grappler from the opening hatch. The mechanical hand caught Koyuki's torso and withdrew. She yelled in shock when Mizore abruptly pulled her into his arms. He threw her inside while Fubuki unleashed her ice grenades on the landscape below. By then, everyone had taken cover, and the airship quickly left the area. Naruto yelled, Damn it, as he watched it soar over the mountain. They got us good there, Yugito flinched, tending to the cut from one of the ice bombs. What now? She questioned, tending to Sakura's wounds with haste. With a simple, rescue mission, Naruto spoke. I think it's about time we give a little of what we've been taking. The Kumo Chunin questioned, and how do we do that? The best defense is a good defense, Naruto merely smiled. As the airship passed over the area's mountains, Koyuki was seated in a fairly cozy seat. Its destination was the site of her previous residence, the Kazuhana Palace. She was scared, anxious, and utterly terrified, but she was also composed. She was an actress after all, so she had become an expert at controlling her feelings. Dodo grinned and remarked, "Koyuki, you've grown quite beautiful. Tell me, do you still have the hex crystal?" "Yes," she grunted in response. Dodo laughed and said, "That's good. With it, I can finally uncover the Kazuhana clan's treasure. It's a prize unlike any other." Wondering, Koyuki looked up. "Treasure? The key to the Kazuhana clan's treasure is found in that necklace. The clan's resources were all but gone when I came to power in the nation. I already know where my brother hidden it, so it must have been somewhere else. I need the hex crystal to unlock it, but it's in the Rainbow Glacier," Dodo said. "With this we will finally be able to increase Snow Country's power and eventually overthrow the 5 great shinobi nations." "Even if you succeed, it won't change anything," Koyuki remarked, removing her necklace and giving it to Dodo. Dodo looked at it for a moment before growling angrily, "What is this? Think I can spot a fake, do you?" W. "What? B. But that is the case." Koyuki suddenly recognized something. "Uzumaki Naruto," she muttered, perceptive. "What?" Dodo snarled. "The brat is an erratic joker, much like his mother. I think he could easily flip a switch," Nader remarked while gathering his group. "We'll go get it now, it shouldn't take long." Dodo cackled, "That won't be necessary," and threw Koyuki back onto the couch. "We have what he wants," he grinned as he turned to face the Yuki ninjas. "He'll come here like a good little hero just to save this little princess." Snow Fortress in Snow Country whispering, "The place is crawling with guards." Yugito identified the different chakra signatures in the vicinity. "They're all Genin level except for 5. 3 are Jonin level and the last 2 are at the Chunin level," she said clearly. Sakura remarked, "I thought there were only 3 Yuki nins in that squad," from the sidelines. Yugito replied, "One of the others is Dodo but I don't recognize the last one." "How about Koyuki? Where is she going?" Naruto inquired. After a moment, Yugito closed her eyes and answered, "She's in one of the underground holding cells." Naruto understood and nodded, saying, "Okay, so this is what we do. While Yugito and I go after Koyuki. Sasuke, you and Sakura should plant as many explosive tags as you can throughout the fortress. I'll be unleashing all the hell my shadow clones can on those genin while we're at it. Just wait for the signal to detonate the tags." "And what's the signal?" Sakura inquired. "That would be the prison area going sky high," Naruto said with a simple smile. "You know I've never actually read one of those books about a damsel in distress, but I guess you would count as one, huh?" Koyuki heard the voice and looked up. "With a fox like grin on his face, Naruto stood outside her cell and said, "Hey princess, did I miss you?" For the first time in a decade, Koyuki smiled sincere and said, "Naruto, you're late." He shot back, "Yeah, well heroes always show up at the last second," and opened his cell door. "You swapped the hex crystal didn't you?" she asked, her smile wavering momentarily. "Yeah," Naruto said, nodding before returning the purple crystal to her. "I concluded that, given the impression I was getting from it, that was what they were genuinely pursuing." "Feeling?" Koyuki asked, looking at him befuddled. "Yes, it makes me feel cold every time I look at it. It's the same feeling I get from my necklace." The blonde answered, "Well, except that one feels warm." She gave him a few more long looks before saying, "That can't be. I mistakenly believed that I was the only one affected by this." "Naruto behind you," from down the path, Yugito called out. Naruto spun around, but he wasn't quick enough. Someone had materialized behind him and used what looked to be a lightning sharp sword to knock him out. Before coming to a stop a short distance away, he bounced off the wall's side and scattered bits of concrete. A moment later, he was on his feet, aware of the edge of the pathway that overlooked the chasm below. "Who the hell are you?" Naruto snarled. Before Yugito could intervene, the stranger had already grabbed Koyuki. His blade was poised to slit the princess's throat at any moment. Everyone in the prison area looked up as a sudden clapping sounded and they saw Dodo coming down the elevator. Dodo grinned and said, "Well done," as the stranger threw the princess and the hex crystal over. "Get rid of them while I handle more crucial matters." Koyuki attempted, but was unsuccessful, to break free. With his new chakra armor visible, he pulled off his cloak and used his mechanical wings to soar through the air. My name is Rokusho Aoi. The stranger turned to face the Konoha Chunin, grinning. He said, that will be the last name you ever hear, turning to face Yugito. He is a Konoha. Born Nukanen who took the Raijin, the sword used by the Yondaime Hokage. Why is he here when I thought he joined AIM? Yugito questioned while standing next to Naruto. After wiping the blood from his mouth, the Kyuubi Jinchuuriki remarked, who cares? We need to retrieve the crystal and Koyuki. Yugito told him, it's too crowded in here to fight properly. Shinra Tensei, the surrounding environment grew and engulfed them. The cells, the ceiling, and even the building above them collapsed, forcing Aoi to flee. Problem solved. Explosive tags went off in a flaming blaze, causing numerous explosions throughout the snow fortress. Team Kakashi saw as the stronghold quickly collapsed, resulting in the deaths of everyone within. After a split second, the building caught fire and destroyed everything it came into contact with. Yugito, can you track them? The four halted, and Naruto inquired. In response, she nodded. They're going to Rainbow Glacier, however, there is a challenge in getting there. What's the problem? Sasuke let out a grunt. The snow team and that Nukanen are between us and them. She turned to face him. One Jonin is located atop the mountain. Two Chunin are situated within the forest, and the other Jonin is situated right outside the glacier. After giving it some thought, Naruto said, okay, this is what we're going to do, once more. We're going our separate ways. Can you handle that rain freak, Yugito? Oh. Yes, Yugito timidly nodded. With a nod, Naruto faced the others and said, Sasuke, come for a short stroll with me. The two asked one another, quite simply, do you think you can take on two Chunin by yourself? As they moved away from the girls. That made Sasuke sigh, it's nothing I can't handle, why not? Sakura is no match for a Chunin, as you and I both know. If she came with Yugito or me, we would be killed. I have no other option but to have you defend her while we fight. Are you up for the challenge? Can you fight two Chunin and still keep her safe? Naruto inquired. Once more sighing in frustration, Sasuke said, that shouldn't be a problem. Naruto grinned and said, okay, then. There's one more thing, he said, raising his voice so that everyone could hear. When you triumph, go straight to Dodo and Koyuki instead of helping the others. Nothing else matters until Dodo's plan is foiled and Koyuki is spared. Snow Country. Boundary of glaciers, so you decided to face me, huh? Let's get this over with, little girl. Aoi acted like she was bowing falsely. Yugito remarked, that's an interesting sword you have, as she watched him unleash the blade in a burst of yellow light. It's amazing, isn't it? I tricked this stupid genin named Idate into stealing it for me. Too bad he escaped before I could kill him. Oh well, not like it matters. The AIM nin replied with a smirk. Sword leveled, he asked, shall we? You know that big of a sword you'd think you were compensating for something, Yugito said with a smile that looked like a cat's mouth. Aoi grumbled at that. I was originally just going to kill you outright, but after that comment, I think I'll enjoy myself first. I wouldn't count on it, Yugito shot back with a growl. It all happened in an instant. He spun the Raijin around and, using only lightning manipulation, absorbed the 7 lightning clones that materialized behind Aoi. After a moment, he stopped and laughed. Really now? Using lightning against me? When I have the Raijin? Surely you had to have realized it is useless to resist. After all, no one can stand up to the power of the Raijin, to my power. I needed to make sure of something, bastard. That's all, Yugito said, shrugging and grinning a little. And what might that be? He inquired, momentarily intrigued. She said simply, I wanted to test your reaction time, and then abruptly started to electrify herself. Was she a replica? His eyes grew wide at that realization. A moment later, Yugito rose from the ground, her arm covered in what appeared to be pure fire. As she slashed at him, she exclaimed, Kaizuki. Aoi brandished his sword, and the two engaged in combat. As they split apart, sparks shot off to the side, Suin Kaizuki. Abruptly, flames erupted from her other arm, and she spun to grab the AIM nin's exposed side. Nevertheless, he blocked the blow and was shocked that she had not collapsed from the shock of the electricity passing through the sword. The blow came in closer and closer, and finally he brought the sword down to cut her in half, but this was a costly mistake. Locking the weapon between her two fire blades, she raised both arms. Her arms then moved like scissors in a single swift motion, severing the sword at the handle. This had never happened to Aoi before, so he dropped the weapon in shock. After that, Yugito sliced straight through him, from back shoulder to thigh, impairing his ability to think clearly. His body vanished into thin air, removing him from the world for all time. With a relieved sigh, she turned to face the two sections of the Raijin that were lying on the ground. It took her only a few seconds to orient herself and seal the two pieces for later use. Once they got back to Konoha, assuming they did, perhaps she could fix it. But for now, she still had a task to finish. All she could hope was that everyone else was okay. Snow Mountain in Snow Country. The two were standing across from one another when Nader said, "This is such a fitting arena, wouldn't you agree, Uzumaki-san?" With his Rinnegan activated, Naruto simply stared, saying, "You're in my way." "Then how about we finish this little dance, huh?" smirked Nader. Naruto said, "Fine by me," and made a hand seal. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," he said as a lone shadow clone materialized next to him. The Yuki leader said, "All right then," and quickly sealed his hands several times. He exclaimed, "Hyeten! Roga Nader no Jutsu." As a dozen wolves-shaped mounds of snow started to pour down the mountain. Chakra twirling in his hand, Naruto bolted forward, the clone following suit. The clone leapt into the air, and a moment later, Naruto did too. Then, in order to avoid the avalanche-like attack, Naruto leapt off the clone as though he were a platform. He swung his attack down upon an astonished Nader as he fell in his direction. The blonde exclaimed, "Rasengan," as the jutsu made contact. A moment later, as the attack subsided, Nader retreated. The device exploded and sparked on his shoulder. After giving it some thought, he laughed a little. "You should feel honored," Nader mockingly remarked, "impressive kid. For a child no older than 13 to break chakra armor is unheard of." Naruto answered, "And you shouldn't let your guard down," as a clone materialized behind the Yuki leader. "What?" When Nader sensed the presence, he quickly turned, but it was already too late. He was hit squarely in the face by the clone, which caused him to fall off the cliff and into the trees below. A moment later, Naruto leapt after him, bringing 3 clones with him. As Nader fell to the ground, the 4 clones grabbed him in midair and threw dust into the air. A second later, Naruto landed on top of him, his knee firmly planted in the Yuki Nin's midsection, making him grunt in agony. The blonde exclaimed, "Shinra Tensai," as Nader's body began to feel more and more weight. The jutsu created a crater around him, and he felt every bone in his body break. Then Naruto started punching him, over and over again. But Naruto didn't stop there. He lifted his hand in the air, and a clone began charging at him in preparation for his next move. As he brought the spinning ball of destruction down on his opponent, he yelled, "Rasengan." Nader turned into snow at this point, proving that it was a snow clone of the Yuki Bunshin no Jutsu. A moment later, Naruto stood as the shadow clones surrounding the blonde vanished in billowing clouds of smoke. Nader materialized with a kunai behind him. And blood spattered across the merciless ground. Forest in Snow Country. Sakura cried out, "Sasuke-kun, they're getting closer," as she ducked under another snowball. "I know," he said in a composed tone. Abruptly he stopped and tossed a bunch of wire strings onto the branch above him. As Mizor's mechanical arm reached out to try to grab him, he backflipped away. Even so, Sasuke was already ahead of the 2 Yuki Chunin when one of the Fuma shuriken unfurled in his hand and he launched it in the direction of the Fubuki that was flying. As she effortlessly sidestepped the big shuriken, Fubuki exclaimed, "You've got to do better than that to bring us down." She cried out, "What the hell?" as a second Fuma shuriken materialized and bounced off the shield of her chakra armor. Sasuke whispered, "Kage shuriken no jutsu," as he watched the second shuriken make contact. But she was knocked off course and into the wire patch by the force of the impact. She touched it, and the wire instantly ensnared her, trapping her. A moment later, though, she managed to break free, but it was too late. In midair, Sasuke materialized behind her and launched an instantaneous attack. He yelled, "Shishi Renden," as he repeatedly kicked her in the stomach, shoulders, and legs before completing the move with a downward kick to the midsection. With a thunderous impact, she crashed into the freezing snow, but Sasuke wasn't finished. He fell in her direction. With lightning engulfing his hand, he was prepared to strike the final blow. After that last attack, her armor had already been pushed to its breaking point. Chakra armor was essentially useless against taijutsu techniques because it wasn't really made to withstand them. Chidori echoed through the forest, accompanied by the 1,000 chirping birds, as Sasuke defeated the Yuki Kunoichi. Mizore yelled, "Fubuki!" upon seeing her lifeless form. As he moved to assist her, he discovered that several wires had attached themselves to him and wouldn't let go of me. Sakura yelled back, "No," as she clamped down the wires to prevent him from moving. Then, suddenly, Sasuke was by her side, using his last jutsu, Kaden Ryuka no Jutsu. Mizore was engulfed in flames when the wire suddenly caught fire. His armor's power core cracked, and a moment later it exploded, destroying Sakura and Sasuke. A moment after the explosion subsided, they stood up, coughing hard from all the ash that seemed to be released during the detonation. "What was that?" Sakura questioned as she steadied herself. "I don't know, but that was definitely not my jutsu," said Sasuke, shaking his head. "Wait, you don't think that their armor is volatile?" Snow region. Rainbow Glacier Koyuki looked out over the gorgeous terrain. Even at this hour, the glacier's glittering scenery was breathtaking. She was aware that dawn was drawing near, but she chose to accept it nonetheless. Her gaze strayed to her uncle, the man who had ordered her father's execution and was driven insane by his desire for power. Despite her hatred, she could never wish for his death because he was family. Spring will arrive if you have faith in the future. Those who deviate from the path of justice lack courage, but cowardice cannot endure when a strong leader is at their side. Koyuki watched Dodo stand before the altar and said, "I'm at the end of my journey. Father. I don't know if I can believe." Tears streamed down her face. The altar burst into light as soon as he placed the crystal into the tiny slot at its very center. She could feel the temperature rising as the ice surrounding them illuminated the glacier. Dodo's sly smile had transformed into fury when the ice surrounding them started to melt, causing streams of water to flow around the edge of the glacier. Koyuki was perplexed and said, "It's so warm. What is this?" Dodo exclaimed, horrified, "A heat generator? This is the hidden treasure of the Kazuhana clan?" A voice called out from the other side of the glacier, "Hey pedophile! I got a bone to pick with you." Koyuki swiftly pivoted and recognized the young girl right away, asking, "Yugito?" When Dodo realized who she was, he snarled and sealed his fist. "Hyuden! Kokuryu Bofusetsu!" he exclaimed, kicking out his fist to send a black ice dragon flying in the direction of the approaching Kumo Chunin. Yugito anticipated it and literally blasted herself clear of the way with her fire manipulation skills. She was knocked off her feet when the dragon struck the ground behind her, but she quickly caught her balance again. But Dodo had already reached her and was ready to finish her with a swung fist. She had already flipped over him and landed between Dodo and Koyuki as the ground trembled under the force of the impact. She slashed with her trademark jutsu, Kaizuki, but the barrier in his armor stopped it. Dodo mockingly said, "What a stupid little girl," and slapped her back across the glacier. As soon as her body struck the altar, he turned to face her, determined to complete the task. "Damn it, Kaizuki is no match for someone like him," Yugito muttered to herself as she struggled to stand. Sneering, the Snow Daimyo asked, "Any last words?" "Go to hell," Yugito retorted rapidly. "You first," he said, slamming his fist into her. A moment later, a sudden Fuma shuriken bounced off of his armor. Barrier from the side. 1,000 chirping birds filled the air as Dodo turned quickly, and Sasuke barreled across the melting ice, lightning splattered hand in front of him. As he slammed the Raiden jutsu into the man's armor. "Barrier," he yelled, "Chidori." An audible crack indicated a small fracture in the reactor core of the armor, and a moment later Dodo pushed Sasuke aside, sending him smashing into the nearby frozen boulder. Sakura showed up by Sasuke's side as he collapsed to the ground but did not lose consciousness. "The pink-haired Kunoichi exclaimed, Sasuke.kun, with alarm. Dodo laughed, and Yugito grew angrier by the second. This man seemed to care only about himself and whatever power he could get his hands on, with no apparent regard for his people. Because of this evil man, she hadn't seen Naruto since they had parted ways and wasn't sure what she would have done if he had passed away. Flames of purple chakra shot out of her, enveloping her in a sea of fire and roaring, "I'll get you." It transformed into a human-sized cat with a single tail that swished behind it. With a sudden burst of speed, Yugito vanished and reappeared in front of an astonished Snow Daimyo, letting out an echoing roar. His chakra barrier was breached by the slash that struck his chest, leaving 4 sizable claw marks on his chest plate. His injuries were so severe that he cried out in agony as he crashed into the side of one of the heat generators. Demon! He yelled frantically as he tried to move away. Yugito was down on all fours and looked like a lion ready to strike. "Stay away from me. Hayatan. Soryu Bofusetsu," he said, holding out both of his hands after making multiple hand seals. When they got close to their target, 2 black dragons of ice shot out and joined to form a pitch black tornado of wind and ice that began drawing everything in the glacier in, eventually drawing Yugito in, and when the wind finally stopped, steam filled the air. The wind whispered, "Nekomata Enden," as a red-hot burst of flames streaked toward him from the steaming area. Dodo grabbed onto the edge of the ice and attempted to pull himself up, but the blast hit Yugito at the spot where it originated, and the ice beneath her feet seemed to shatter, causing her to fall in as well. It impacted his barrier and scattered, melting parts of his armor and the ice he stood on. A moment later the ice collapsed and he dropped into the freezing water below. The water caused the fire surrounding her to extinguish, forcing her to cling to the hole's edge. Dodo was the first to get up and raced toward Yugito, knowing she wouldn't be able to stop him this time, so she closed her eyes as he got close. "Die, monstrous!" As he advanced to make the kill, he cried out. Rinnegan. He was suddenly shot forward and slammed into a formation of frozen boulders. "Don't you dare touch any of them with your filthy hands," Naruto growled as he glared at the snow daimyo. Bansho Tenin. He was pulled back by an unseen force and he suddenly felt a searing pain in his back. "Naruto!" Koyuki whispered, gasping at the expression on his face. His clothes were a mess and he appeared to have been through a small war, which was probably true all things considered. His Rinnegan was blazing and there were faint traces of red mist drifting off from his body. "Yugito, are you okay, Koyuki?" With his gaze fixed on Dodo's form, he questioned. "I'll be fine," Yugito said with a wince as she attempted to treat her wounds. "I'm okay," Koyuki said with a nod. "Sasuke? Sakura? What say the two of you?" he inquired behind his back. Sakura sighed visibly in relief and said, "I'm okay." Sasuke angrily stared at his teammate's back, thinking, Naruto. "Good. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," he said as one clone materialized at his side, waiting for orders. You little brat who annoys me, standing up again," Dodo bellowed, "I'll make you regret interfering with my plans. Uzumaki. Hayatan. Bofusetsu Kokuryu." A black ice dragon was launched at the blonde-haired boy. Naruto didn't even move from where he was standing. He brought one hand up and opened his palm. "It's over. Now that this absurd little play is over." "Shinra Tensei," the ice dragon cried out before it could even reach him. "It's not over yet. It won't end until evil is vanquished and justice is revealed. There must be a happy ending to every good story." "Wah. What?" As soon as Naruto raised his hand once more, Dodo let out a startled cry. "Finish as Naruto.kun." Koyuki knew she had to say something, so she yelled it loud and clear. "Bansho Tenin," Dodo thought as the blonde extended his free hand to the clone, only to find himself drawn back towards Naruto. A moment later, a spiraling sphere of chakra formed, and Naruto lunged forward, Rinnegan. Full of jealousy, Sasuke thought, "What is that jutsu? Why can't I copy it? Where did he learn that?" Sakura exclaimed, "Wow, rainbow chakra," as she watched in awe as the heat generators caused the jutsu to shift into 7 distinct colors. "It's just like in the movie." Please, as Yugito witnessed the attack strike Dodo's barrier, she exulted. The glass cracked and shattered, the area around them changed from ice and water to grass and streams, and Dodo's lifeless body fell to the ground, a pained look permanently imprinted on his face. There was an audible caw. Boom as the jutsu detonated, sending him spinning back and slamming into the very center of one of the generators. "Wait a minute," the director yelled as he peered out over the new scenery from the cliff above. "Is that right? We're filming this in 3 dimensions?" The image of a younger Koyuki appeared in the middle of the glacier, though it was obvious that it was a recording. "Believe in the future. If you do, then the spring will surely come." "What will you do when it comes, Koyuki?" a man's voice inquired. "I'm going to become a princess," the childishly smiling recorded Koyuki declared. "And what kind of princess, exactly?" a man's voice inquired. "All right, Let's see who is kind, strong, and willing to fight for justice, the young girl exclaimed with joy. The male voice said, ha 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 ha, that's some dream, with a happy tone. Did I really say what I said? The real Koyuki, who was watching the recording and wondering how it would end, asked as she stared at it. Out of nowhere, a man considerably taller than the young Koyuki grinned and emerged wearing a green robe and spectacles. The recorded Sosetsu smiled and put the hex crystal around the young girl's neck, looking forward, saying, well, as long as you believe in your dream and never give up, one day you'll be that fine princess. He smiled and said, there's a beautiful princess standing right in front of you right now. The real Koyuki looked up at her father's face by this point, tears streaming down her cheeks. Well, I have a problem because I want to be something else, the younger Koyuki said, glancing over her shoulder. With interest in her gaze, Sosetsu said, really? What is that? An actress, she smiled foolishly in response. The real Koyuki began laughing lightly at the irony of what was said, and Sosetsu laughed at that, obviously believing she could pull it off. Eventually, though, the image faded and the recording became nothing more than a memory. That's what I would call a happy ending, Yugito grinned. Yes, it is, Naruto uttered, glancing up at the spot where the image had been just a moment before. Everyone turned to face the altar as it abruptly erupted into a series of low chakra shockwaves. What the heck is that? Sakura inquired, startled. How am I supposed to know? The altar erupted in light, and Yugito yelled back in response. Koyuki shielded her eyes from the light and asked, precisely what is happening? Naruto caught the hex crystal with both hands, but the force behind it was enough to propel him several feet away as it glowed and shot up into the air above the altar before moving at an insane speed. Naruto. When Yugito saw that he was being blown back, he yelled in concern. I'm doing great. As he gazed down at the crystal, he told her. It will be me who brings about law and order. He saw the crystals glow in his hands and around his neck, and he asked himself, did this crystal just talk? 6 in total. Senju. The crystal, it's resonating with the necklace Tsunade. Sama gave you, Yugito remarked, glancing between the two glowing items. Koyuki remarked, well, it seems like it belongs to you now, as she noticed the necklace's glow stopping. With a sidelong glance at the snow, spring princess, Naruto said, you mean I can keep it? Koyuki gave a nod, yes, give it proper attention. Thank you, he said without really knowing why, it was just the appropriate thing to say at the moment. At that point, Yugito clapped her hands together and said, let's leave now. Right now, I really could use a shower. Fire Country. Hokage Tower and Konoha. The journey back home had gone smoothly. They had stayed until Koyuki was formally proclaimed the new spring daimyo and, as a token of gratitude, she consented to form an alliance with Konoha and the Fire Country. Sakura was acting like her usual self on the journey back, pestering Sasuke non-stop. After learning that Koyuki would still be acting and feature in the upcoming Icha Icha movie, Yugito had been surprisingly silent. And Sasuke is another. It was starting to irritate him that he had been giving Naruto the glare the whole way home. As long as they could cooperate, it didn't matter if they liked each other. That was Naruto's initial belief, but during the Battle of the Frozen Glacier, as the people of Spring Country now called it, something changed. Naruto was quite uncomfortable, though he wasn't sure what had changed specifically. This brings us to the present day. Naruto declared emphatically, mission accomplished, as his group approached the Hokage. Kakashi gave a nod and perused the report, noting that it was impressive if a bit reckless. Naruto gave his justification, we had to split up, taking them on as a group would have been suicide. Kakashi brushed it off, believe me Naruto. If I were in your shoes I would have made the same call. No matter how reckless it was still the right decision. I appreciate it, sensei, nodded the squad leader. Sighing, go take a break, all of you. I'm sure there'll be another mission for you tomorrow, so go get some rest. Dismissed. The four nodded and left the room, but before they could go up the stairs, a single sentence altered their destiny forever. Sasuke called out, hey Dobi, grabbing the other people's attention. Naruto asked over his shoulder, what do you want Teme? Fight me. Now, Sasuke yelled, shocking the two team female members with his glare. Naruto questioned, bewildered, what? Sasuke, we just got back from a mission. What the hell are you talking about? He yelled, shut up and fight me, with obvious rage in his voice. Naruto was simply staring at him. Sasuke, I can't. I'm a Chunin now. I can't just go around and pick fights with people anymore. And even if I could, I don't have the time to deal with your ego. When he turned to face the stairs once more, Sasuke noticed and grabbed his shoulder to turn him around. With a swift turn, Naruto slammed the boy with dark hair against the wall, saying, "What the hell is your problem? You and me. Training ground 7, right now," Sasuke growled more fiercely. At Naruto's words, Sasuke's Sharingan activated. "Sasuke, you're not getting it. I have bigger problems than you now." "Orochimaru, Akatsuki. Your brother," Naruto said. "I said to fight me," the Uchiha scoffed. "No," in response, Naruto stopped teasing. Sasuke smirked and asked, "Are you scared?" "I'm not the scaredy.cat," Uzumaki, who is blonde, answered. Sasuke moaned, "HN," as Naruto turned to move forward. But when he spoke up once more, Naruto froze in place and said, "Then if you won't fight me, maybe this demon girl will." The moment he called her, "that bastard," Yugito gave him a glare. "What is the issue with him?" Naruto said, "Take that back," as he spun around and fired up his Rinnegan. "Make me," Sasuke uttered in an attempt to elicit a response. He was given one, "Fine, training ground 7, 20 minutes, be there." HN. Training field, Konoha is the fire country. After 20 minutes, Naruto and Sasuke moved toward the training field's center. Somehow, the news spread that the two would square off, and the majority of Konoha's population showed up to watch the match. Sasuke, the last devoted Uchiha, and Uzumaki Naruto, the heir to the Rakudo Sennin, are two opposing forces. Two kids who were remarkably alike and yet very different. Two offspring who were virtually nobility. Two kids with two distinct, almost extinct dujutsus. A pair of kids who stood for hatred and fire. Two young ones who stood in for the Senju and Uchiha families' legacies. Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Kakashi had also heard about this and had come to investigate. Tsunade didn't really care about the match, but she did care about Naruto, so she would be there in case anything happened. Jiraiya was a little worried, but he knew what he had to do. But as for Kakashi, he was the Hokage, that much is clear. Over his shoulder, Jiraiya inquired, "So you heard too, huh?" As he approached him, Kakashi nodded and said, "Yeah, I need to stop this before it gets out of hand." Jiraiya shook his head and said, "It's already out of hand. The best thing you can do for those kids is to let them sort this out for themselves." The Hokage uttered, "Jiraiya Sama." First, Jiraiya intervened and said, "Hokage Sama, you need to let them sort this out for themselves. There is no way around it. What's the story between these two anyway? Remember how you were with Orochimaru?" Kakashi sighed. Jiraiya grimaced as she nodded, "Oh great. Looks like we got a big crowd here," Naruto remarked, surveying the large assembly of people observing them. "Sensei has even noticed us," he remarked, pointing out that the Hokage was acting like his usual sluggish self. Sasuke only responded, "HN," to that. With a chuckle, Naruto turned to face the Uchiha and asked, "What's so funny?" Naruto nodded his head, "It's just, I guess I'm happy, after everything that's happened. I'm glad I finally get the chance to pound your ass into the ground." Sasuke scoffed, "Who are you fooling, loser?" As he answered, "I haven't been a loser in a long time, Teme." Naruto's eyes flashed gray. "Whatever, loser," Sasuke muttered. "I bet you only became Chunin because of that demon girl from Kumo." For a moment, Naruto turned red and said, "I dare you to say that again." "What are you going to do if I do?" scoffed Sasuke. The terrifying grin on Naruto's face read, "The same thing Haku did to you when you fought him." Sasuke shut up and scowled at the thought of his first loss. Naruto grinned at the reply, clearly enjoying this little trick of the mind. "Now that I think about it, with the exception of that guy from the preliminaries, you've never actually won a fight. Why are you so weak? Is it because you don't have enough hatred? That's what happened." Sasuke charged forward, determined to tear the blonde apart, his anger overwhelming him. When Naruto noticed that he was approaching, he dodged the blow to his face with his fist. He recognized the technique as one of the taijutsu strikes used by Rock Lee. In fact, that attack would have taken him out on the first strike if it weren't for his lightning fast reflexes. "So you're using Fuzzy Brow's taijutsu and speed, huh?" Alright then, how about I even the odds a little? Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto said as he slid away and formed a hand seal. Immediately, dozens of real clones materialized around the Uchiha. As the clones attacked, Sasuke was forced to go on the defensive because all he could see around him was an ocean of orange and black. There was one clone, then 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. He realized they were keeping him pinned, so he changed his strategy. His hands already sealed, he leapt high above the training ground. Sasuke yelled, "Kaden! Gukakyu no Jutsu," as he hurled a massive ball of fire in the direction of the numerous clones. A moment later, they were lost in the raging conflagration, pathetic. Shinra Tensei, and the flames went out right away. With his Rinnegan activated, Naruto stood unharmed in the center and said, "You didn't think it would be that easy, did you?" As he landed back on solid ground, Sasuke let out a grunt and said, "Fight seriously, loser. Even you can't be this pathetic." "Do you want me to fight seriously?" "Alright," Naruto said, raising an open palm in the Uchiha's direction. "Bansho Tenin," Sasuke exclaimed as he felt himself drawn in Naruto's direction. "What is this? Is this one of his jutsus from Rinnegan?" As he approached, Sasuke inquired. A moment later, Naruto had a kunai in his hand, and just as Sasuke got close, he struck out. The Uchiha's shoulder was slightly cut by the blade, but not fatally, just enough to show that the match would have ended if Naruto had gone for the head. With a loud slam, Sasuke struck the ground and rolled to a stop. However, a moment later, stood up and turned to face Naruto. The blonde was leaving, seemingly with no intention of sticking around. Sasuke exclaimed, "Hey Dobi, where are you going?" with rage. While walking, Naruto cast a sidelong glance at him and said, "You're done. If I had aimed for your head or anything else vital, you would be a corpse right now." "You." Sasuke gave him a fierce glare. He would never suffer such humiliation. Already, his hands were creating hand seals. "Oh no," Kakashi said with a widening of his eyes. As Tsunade worriedly observed what appeared to be blue lightning encircling the Uchiha's right hand, she said, "Isn't that?" The Hokage declared, "I have to stop this now," and he intervened to end the fight. But Jiraiya stopped him, saying, "No need." Kakashi stopped and looked at him. "You're kidding, right? Those are my students out there. That jutsu Sasuke's using is designed to kill whoever it's aimed at. I can't let this go on any further than it already has." "Just saying, Naruto can handle himself," Jiraiya said. "Unlike you Hokage. Sama. I actually trained the boy, he won't be taken down so easily." Kakashi then recalled what Naruto had said to him earlier during the Chunin exam. "Rewind no jutsu start." Naruto chuckled, almost sinister. "It's funny because even with that new jutsu of his, he won't win." "Why do you think that way?" The copy.nin questioned, his eyes narrowing. "Because he's fighting a demon container. We're not easily beaten by a thing like that," Naruto said with a tiny smirk. "Rewind no jutsu termination." "Naruto, when you said that, you weren't just talking about Gaara. You were talking about yourself too. You knew you'd have to face Sasuke at some point," Kakashi realized startlingly. As Yugito watched the fight go on, she thought to herself, "Be careful, you idiot." Knowing she couldn't stop it, Sakura exclaimed, "Sasuke-kun." Naruto, but that only made things worse. Sasuke leapt forward, his voice resonating throughout the training ground, "Chidori." Naruto had limited time and was aware that it was approaching. Even so, he found it hard to believe that he had to do what he did. With a swift turn, he cloned his shadow to stand by his side. As Sasuke approached, Naruto's voice yelled, "Is this everything we've ever meant to you?" With the jutsu fully charged, the clone swung his hand and said, "Rasengan." The light filled the world. Everyone was left in awe as the two used their most potent moves against each other, shooting sparks and wind everywhere before the area they were standing in ultimately blew up. The two Konoha ninjas were blasted apart, with Sasuke colliding with one of the numerous trees and Naruto slamming into one of the 3 nearby wooden posts. After observing how the fight was progressing, Yugito remarked, "They're really trying to kill each other." She was unsure of her feelings. Was she experiencing fear or anxiety? She was unaware of. Sakura was horrified to see how the two were fighting and exclaimed, "We have to stop this." "It's too late to stop now," Yugito shook her head. "This is not good," Tsunade said. Given that they were Konoha's shinobi and would thus be under his authority, Kakashi was at a loss for what course of action to take in this circumstance. However, he was powerless to stop his students from smashing each other to pieces because they had full intentions of doing so. "It's only going to get worse," Jiraiya declared. How in the world did he use that jutsu just now? As he got back up, Sasuke thought angrily. The Uchiha prepared some wire for his next blow, thinking, close combat would be bad if he can use that jutsu of his. I can do Chidori one more time safely. Better stick to long range. Naruto stood up as well and said, "You're really trying to kill me, aren't you, Sasuke?" Sasuke chose to duck to the side and into the trees, where he might be able to remain hidden, rather than responding. Using his Rinnegan, Naruto scanned the area where he vanished, but he was unable to find any trace of chakra. Unexpectedly, wire shot up from the earth surrounding him, catching him off guard. Naruto's eyes grew wide as he looked to where the wire was connected, saying, "Damn it, he got me." The words, "See you in hell, loser," were already sealed into Sasuke's hand. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Shot out as he inhaled on the wire, setting it on fire. Oh no. As the flames approached, Naruto was engulfed in a blinding crimson light. Ha 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 ha. Brat, you should be thanking me for this. Me and that blasted Yondaime Hokage who sealed me in here. As a column of red chakra shot out from Naruto's position, Tsunade exclaimed, "Oh shit. Is that?" Kakashi started. "Yes, it is," Jiraiya said. "This is the first time I've seen him unleash it to this extent," Yugito said, his eyes widening at the sight. "This exam doesn't resemble the Chunin exams at all. Was this during the mission to Spring Country?" Sakura questioned, "What is going on?" as the light faded and revealed. With red chakra covering his body and assuming the form of a fox with a single swishing tail, Naruto dropped to all fours. When Sasuke first saw it, he thought, it's just like that demon girl. Naturally, he recognized the risk and said to himself, "This will not be as easy as I thought it would be." Naruto said in a menacing voice, "Well, what do you think? Scaredy cat?" "You're a demon," menacingly said Sasuke. "You really are a monster, just like her." As he charged forward with incredible speed, Naruto exclaimed, "A demon? You don't know the meaning of the word." It wasn't until the fist struck Sasuke in the face that he realized it was coming, blowing him back and sending him through a tree. "I was blind to that." The Uchiha considered it shocking. His eyes shifted slightly as he raised his head to face Naruto, trying to concentrate. Naruto suddenly leapt forward once more and said, "I can see him now," as his Sharingan changed into its next stage. Unlike the previous time, Sasuke avoided the initial blow, but this time, Naruto's chakra moved on its own and slashed him across the face. With a loud thud, he flew back and landed in the middle of the clearing, rolling to a stop. What was that? As Sasuke healed, he thought, "It seems like that chakra of his has a mind of its own. It's better for me to stick to long range attacks. Close combat isn't very useful right now." "Have you had enough, Teme?" Naruto barked. "Hardly," smirked Sasuke, creating a hand seal. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. He whizzed at the chakra fox, unleashing a massive ball of fire instantly. Instead of dodging it, though, Naruto faced it head on and didn't even bat an eyelid as it crashed into him. When the mist lifted and Naruto stood perfectly unharmed, Sasuke was astounded. It must be that chakra guarding him, Sasuke realized. The chakra shot out in the direction of the Uchiha as Naruto held out his hand. The claw grabbed Sasuke and gently pulled him in the direction of Naruto, widening his eyes but leaving him helpless. As he approached, the blonde's right hand was glowing red, and then all of a sudden, the fist struck the Uchiha's face. With immense force, Sasuke was blown back, ricocheting off 3 trees before coming to a halt at the posts. For a while, nothing was said until, "Kukakuku," said Sasuke as he got to his feet. 2 demon wings emerged from his back, and the curse seal on his shoulder covered his entire body. He said, "Let's finish this job," while fluttering his wings. "What happened to you? Was it Orochimaru? Did he corrupt you?" growled Naruto upon seeing him. "Kukakuku. His auto nins came to me and gave me what I needed to control my new power," curtly replied Sasuke. Naruto growled, "And you trust them?" With a melancholic chuckle, Sasuke said, "Of course not. Not that it matters." His hands were forming hand seals out of nowhere, and a moment later his hand was covered in lightning. With a ball of spinning red chakra in his right hand, Naruto was acting very similarly. They leapt at each other and launched assaults in an attempt to end the conflict permanently. Rasengan. Chidori.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.